It's concerning wildlife. It's concerning a rhino.
A rhino?
Right? Yeah,
okay.
rhino. I used to live in Kenya when I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
And we were in this wildlife park in a grey Morris Minor. This rhino started chasing us. There's me and my sister in the back seat.
Right.
It was like something out of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
We were turning around saying, "Believe it, Dad. Just put your foot down, Dad. We're in a field. Put your foot down." This rhino was chasing us.
One from Mark here in Derby. Went on holiday for our first romantic holiday to Tunisia years ago. Decided to take my girl into a petting zoo. I got a bag of food to feed the animals. A giant goat then went for me, putting his front legs over my shoulders and proceeding to headbutt me over a fence into one of the pens, covering me in the food and making my nose bleed. I got out of the pen, then the goat and all his mates attacked me again, sending me running and screaming like a girl out of the zoo, with my girlfriend rolling with laughter on the floor.
A tarantula climbed up the bottom of the bed on the sheet.
Yeah.
And it walked all the way up. It's eyeball to eyeball.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, what am I going to do when it climbs over my face? But then a miracle happened. It raised its 2 front legs and waved them around. And then it turned around and walked down the side of the sheet.
Boris Johnson been attacked by an ostrich. The former PM was enjoying a safari trip with his family when the bird leaned into his car and went oi oi and pecked his hand. In footage shared online, he quickly jerked from the ostrich. Don't dirty minds away from the ostrich, and shouted, "Oh, Christ, get hell," before driving off. And so I just set it out there. Have you been attacked by an animal? When I was about 7, says Trevor Jenkins, on holiday in Spain in the 70s, a monkey pulled my long hair. It was long because in the 70s I was in floods of tears. As the family car drove out the car park, an elephant ripped off the car mirror. We got the message. Spanish animals aren't to be trusted. Jeremy, Brittany here from the United States. I was spurred by a rooster in my right foot a few years ago. Spurred? How do you get spurred by a rooster?
I want to hear
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Glory. It's 6:03. I'm Mike Graham, and it is, of course, Tuesday, the 5th of August, and we are here this morning for a great many reasons. One, to pay tribute to James Whale, the man, the legend, who passed away yesterday. We announced it middle of yesterday afternoon. I was here helping Peter Cardwell, helping Denny Morris, helping all the team here to remember James and to bring as many of his laughs to you as we can. Of course, he died just yesterday after having a long battle with cancer. We're going to be celebrating his life this morning, talking to an awful lot of people, including Chris Tarrant, who knew him incredibly well. Lots and lots of clips to play for you as well. Peter Blexy's also here with us. Peter, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
We'll talk a bit about James, of course, throughout the show. We'll also talk about all the news that's going on this morning. To wit, all kinds of different stories on the front pages. The main story, I suppose, for us in terms of what's actually happening and what's breaking is that apparently this week, and possibly today, is the start of the one in, one out, as it's rather laughably called, policy of Keir Starmer, where he's going to apparently allow one person to come into the country for every person that we kick out. But of course, we know it's not going to really work like that, because it's more like 17 in, 1 out. And we shall watch the skies, watch the roads, and watch the seas, and see whether anybody's actually coming in today, because you can bet your bottom dollar that it will be more like 1,000 in and none out. For the first day. For the second day, it'll be another 1,000 in and none out. And for the third day, and then it will suddenly be the end of the week, and it'll be none out and loads in, I would imagine. But maybe I'm being too pessimistic about this. Front pages say this. The Daily Mail has got Iran asks Taliban for spy kill list. This is, of course, the list of people who supposedly worked with the British armed forces in Afghanistan all those years ago. Leaders of Iran's Revolutionary Guard are said to have asked the Taliban if they can have access to the bombshell list, which is at the centre of that 2-year super injunction in the United Kingdom. Many of the people, of course, on that list are now living here. So wouldn't that be great if we start having all sorts of mad Iranian assassins wandering Britain looking for these Afghan characters and knocking them off? Not quite sure that's the way we planned it, is it? Prime Minister and police at odds over migrant suspects. This is one for you, Peter. Sir Keir Starmer's put pressure, supposedly, on police chiefs to release more information about offenders at a time of growing unrest over the government's handling of the migration crisis. Yesterday, we told you about all of the unrest over the weekend in all sorts of different locations in Britain, different migrant hotels where many people were out demonstrating. Also, of course, the Warwickshire police problem, which is that they instructed council leaders not to release the identities and the ethnicities and the nationalities of 2 Afghan suspects who have been charged with the rape of a 12-year-old girl. Absolutely staggering. Front page of the Daily Telegraph, parents pay £500 million to beat school VAT raid, which basically means that an awful lot of people decided to pay up early for their private tuition for their children before the 20% tax rate came in on January the 1st of this year. Also, The Sun have got TV's Jay Blades on 2 rape charges, and The Guardian have got pictures of the storm up in Scotland, where 100-mile-an-hour winds battered Glasgow and many other parts of Scotland. Well, what can I say? Peter Blexley, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Governor.
Shall we kick off with a bit on James Whale, because you knew him as well as many of us here, worked with him. I think we've got a little clip. Have we got a little clip that we can play? This is James Whale and Peter Blexley from Plank of the Week.
But some people want their employees back. And if you employ someone, if I turn around to you and say, you know, sorry, Peter, but from next week, back in the office.
You don't have to apologise, Governor. What time do you want me in?
9 o'clock.
Yeah. Would you mind not bringing that hat with you, though?
Why have you dressed in a cocktail head, though?
Because these people are cops.
Turkey. It's festive. It's
Christmas.
It actually doesn't look to.
It's Christmas.
If you have a little look
Well,
on
it's only
It looks like Emu's love child.
Trust me.
Yeah, it is.
When Trev
You've got the
Gobbles
head
realise
up. You've
he's
got
a
your head
turkey.
up, Trevor's to be honest, haven't you?
I've had it in worse places.
Yeah, well, I don't remember that at all, but it's a very funny-looking hat, that.
It's
Was that last Christmas, or maybe one before?
yeah. Well, it's a great honour to have that clip shown and for people to hear it, to have sat next to the mighty James,
Yeah.
and largely down to you.
Yeah.
Because you invited me on to Plank of the Week, so James and I would have conversations and fun in the green room and then carry it on
Yeah.
on screen. And I'll keep my tribute to him very brief, because I heard some of the most eloquent and wonderful things that were said about James. But for me, because he was so original in bringing speech radio, callers phoning
Yeah.
in to radio
Yeah.
stations, to the UK, where he'd first heard it in America. And of course, there are so many people across the industry now that owe their work entirely down to James. I will say this, often copied, never bettered.
No, exactly right. I mean, Denny Morris, our boss yesterday, said that he was basically the godfather of speech radio, and he kind of is, and will always be. You know, that will never change, no matter what happens. And watching some of the clips yesterday, and we'll play some through at the course of the show today, I mean, just so funny, apart from anything else, just so much fun to be had. And I said I used to sit, sometimes if I was listening to him at home or in the car or something like that, you'd just wait for him to do the, you know, just get out. Because he'd time it so perfectly, you know, or he'd put the phone down on somebody or tell them to get lost. It was, you had this brilliant ability just to kind of, to know the exact moment to do it.
Yeah, and on that very note, I find these days so many presenters cut an idiot off before they've allowed their complete idiocy to be
There's quite a skill to that.
There is.
Yeah.
And so James would know, you know, if somebody's not going to get any more idiotic, boom, he chops them off immediately. But those who were going to make a really stupid argument, he would let them and give them so much rope that they completely hung themselves.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he'd have very little to add, because they'd shown their utter foolishness to the entire audience.
Exactly. Absolutely brilliant. So, anyway, we will celebrate it. It was quite a difficult day for all of us yesterday, just because, you know, even though we knew James had been very ill for a very long time, he'd been battling terminal cancer, actually, for 5 years.
Yeah.
I remember we did and I said this yesterday, we did a tribute to him about 3 years ago, and on that tribute, it was called A Lifetime of Nighttime, which I'm sure we'll play again sometime later this week. You know, at that time he said, if I can make it till Christmas of this year, we'll be doing well. You know, and he made 2 more Christmases after that. So he was a hell of a brave man and a fighter, and he took it all the way to the end, you know, and finally ended up, and luckily I was able to see him just about 10 days ago in the hospice where he was staying, where they loved him. And to the end, the other thing is that we'll be speaking later on in the show to Chris Tarrant. We'll be speaking to somebody from the Kidney Cancer Foundation, because he raised a lot of money and a lot of awareness for that particular ghastly disease as well.
I love the way you call him a fighter, because throughout his career there were many a time when he'd lock horns with execs and the bosses
he got
and
fired
those
a few
in
times.
charge. Yeah, because he was uncompromising in what he felt made great radio or TV or content. He had this vision. And he continually delivered upon it.
Yeah, he absolutely did.
Wonderful.
And he reinvented himself so many times as well. And as I say, some of the stuff, we were just laughing out loud, just at some of the way, just some of it, just the visuals of it alone. You know, some of the stuff he would wear, you know, some of the outfits that Ash had as well. It's just tremendous. So anyway, very, very sad news that James has died. If you missed any of it yesterday, feel free to add your comments if you wish. If you want to leave us any voice messages, 0344 499 1000, we'll play them out. And he very much also was the kind of godfather of talk radio, as it now is, because, you know, without him, this station probably wouldn't exist, you know?
Yep, and there are so many people, whether that be on regional radio stations, national radio stations, wherever there is a phone-in format, the DNA trail leads back to Mr. James Whale.
It does, absolutely right. So that's the way we're going to start the show. We will continue along that theme throughout, but there's lots of other stories to talk about, and this one I want to raise first with you, Peter, because aside, we'll get on to the one in, one out nonsense, because nobody really believes that that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
The Labour government seems to think if they call something, then it is that, but it isn't actually, because we know very well it won't be. But this story on the front of the Times is interesting. Keir Starmer says supposedly he's putting pressure on police chiefs to release more information about offenders. Now, I find that quite staggeringly kind of surprising, because my belief is that last year Keir Starmer was putting pressure on them not to release information as opposed to release information. So what do you make of this about why would the police ever think it was a good idea to withhold ethnicity, nationality and any other identifiable information about suspects in a rape case?
Anybody who's listening or watching who is over the age of 50, shall we say?
Yes.
I've got some very gloomy news for you, if you haven't already worked it out. The policing that you knew has gone forever.
Yeah.
Sadly, that policing that was all about public service, keeping the streets safe, all of that, gone. We now have a massively politicised police service where you have all these senior police officers with their numerous university degrees who are as woke and as liberal and consequently as pernicious and as dangerous as you can imagine, because they've gone so far from that blue-collar occupation that policing used to be into thinking they are now part of the illuminatory, the highly educated, intellectual...
Letters after their name, that sort of thing.
Exactly, right? And this is very relevant to what I'm about to talk about. The College of Policing, okay, an absolutely lamentable think tank that really needs to be disbanded, because therein lies the root of all this pernicious wokery and nonsense kind of thinking. Hands down guidelines about what information should be released about arrested persons. And essentially, it kind of absolves itself of some responsibility, because it says it's at the discretion of chief constables. Well, chief constables, I can give you numerous examples of appalling chief constables who are really not friends of the people, and they are just politicised creatures. And so Warwickshire, when these two Afghan men get charged with rape, of course there is now a court case that is going to follow, they decided within themselves to not release the details, background, ethnicity and the such like of those two men. But of course somebody knew, somebody had a whisper, because the story found its way to the Sun, and the Sun managed to discover who these people were and where they were from, and of course that built the pressure, and eventually they've relented.
Right.
But of course they're now hiding behind there's a court case, so they'll say
So we
nothing
can't talk
further,
about
and
it, yeah.
And that's fine. I get that, of course.
But at least we know that they were migrants. At least we know that they were staying locally in a hotel and all of that, right?
Exactly. And so people should know, because people, as you mentioned in your introduction, are protesting at numerous locations around the country about having these illegal migrants parachuted into local hotels, and consequently their communities are being blighted by unacceptable behaviour, by some of these people committing crimes for which they're being arrested and charged, hence all the disquiet. It's almost like echoes of last year to a certain extent.
It is.
And
because
now,
the problem to an extent hasn't changed. It's the same problem, isn't it?
Well, it very much is, in terms of these people committing crimes, blighting communities. The problem's the same in terms of ridiculously high numbers of people, undocumented, who we don't know the background to, we don't know their education, we don't know their intentions, we don't know what they're doing coming to this country, apart from to get a home for free and get benefits and all the such
Bring in
like.
38,000 members of their family.
Correct. And there is massive disquiet. So as the numbers increase in terms of people getting arrested and charged, the police are going to have to confront this issue and say, well, do we act honestly and transparently and tell the public who they are? Will that cause disquiet? Or do we try and hide their identities and where they're from and the fact that they're migrants? But of course, that will leak out eventually.
Of course it will, and that will cause even more disquiet.
Correct.
And we know, for example, I mean, the front page, and this is related in a way, funnily enough, Iran asking the Taliban for a spy kill list. You know, we know how terrible that story ended up being when there was the government had to actually apply for a super injunction so that the public couldn't be told about the fact that tens of thousands of Afghan men were being imported into the country under cover of darkness in unmarked planes, literally in the middle of the night, right? And we also know, because this was a cabinet document from last October, that in all of the areas of where there was, you know, disorder last summer after the Southport killings, they were all areas which had been flooded with Afghan refugees. So people's, you know, tensions were at a very high point. And the same now, you know, an awful lot of people, I mean, according to Warwickshire Police, yesterday they said this: once someone is charged with an offence, we follow national guidance. This guidance does not include sharing ethnicity or immigration status. Now, yesterday they said that it was national policy not to do it. So it's either guidance or policy. Which is it?
Yeah, well, there you go. College of Policing and police services not being open and honest and transparent like they should be, hiding behind words. But you know what? This might sound like a bit of a quantum leap, but it's not, because it is so utterly, utterly relevant. This all cuts across one of the huge issues of the day that people are hugely concerned about, which is freedom of speech. Because people want to speak freely about who it is that's been charged about a crime. Of course. They want to know, they want to speak about it. So many people out there that I speak to, including Tony, who approached me in the Boozer on Friday night, said he's a massive fan of you and the show, listens every Tuesday, gives him a buzz as he drives off to work. People are afraid about speaking openly and truthfully. They truly feel that free speech in this country is being suppressed, and it is a matter of huge public disquiet.
Absolutely right. Nigel Farage in The Sun today, pages 6 and 7, end the cover-up. He's accused police of a cover-up over these two Afghan asylum seekers charged over the rape of a 12-year-old girl. He said it's absolutely disgraceful that their immigration status was not revealed to the public by Warwickshire Police, and he's now demanding that all forces release the name, address and immigration background of anyone charged with serious crimes. I mean, he's right, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt, if we're going to be open and honest. And that's what the police should be. They should learn. But, you know, when they talk about setting up elite units to monitor social media and all that kind of stuff, they are so distanced and so unaware of what the public are thinking. I'm staggered.
It's amazing, isn't it, how much they don't know?
Yeah, because, of course, they're not in communities. they claim to it. No, they pander to minority communities.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Right.
They're not really... In policing, there are two communities you really need to bother yourself with. The first community is people who are victims of crime.
Yes.
Of course. The second community is people who commit crime.
Yeah.
They're who you should be engaging with. In other words, slapping the handcuffs on them and sticking them in the back of the van.
Exactly right. I mean, yesterday, Reform got another defection, a major one. Conservative Rupert Matthews, who was elected Police and Crime Commissioner for Leicestershire and Rutland in 2021, he actually has said antisocial behaviour has turned town centres and high streets into apocalyptic wasteland of lawless Britain. He says we need to cut the dark heart of wokeness out of the criminal justice system and allow the police and courts to get back to what they're supposed to be doing, which is keeping our community safe. Exactly as you say, you know, and that's the kind of thing people want to hear from the police. But that's what we don't hear.
I make no apology for reiterating this. Policing used to be a blue-collar job.
Yeah.
It was a working-class job.
Yeah.
But it was a good job with reasonable pay and a decent pension at the end of it. That's what you would get for 30 years of largely being unpopular, you know, with criminals and the such like.
Yes.
Working anti-social hours, weekends, early, late and nights, all that kind of stuff. That was the trade-off. Now, these senior police leaders have moved it completely away from that into some kind of intellectualised load of nonsense.
Yeah.
And the public are not fools. They realise that. It's another reason why trust and confidence in the police has absolutely tanked.
Yeah.
They're not there for us.
No.
They don't investigate our burglaries. When the tools get nicked out of our vans, when the cars get nicked, they're not on the streets. They're not maintaining law and order. They're letting the criminals and the hoodlums run ragged.
Yeah.
Shoplifting is rampant. So is so much other antisocial behaviour. And where are the old bill? For me, my missus, my kids, my neighbours, my community, where are they? Flag waving or engaging with some other minority community because they think that's the thing to do.
Yeah, well, they're studying Twitter to see whether he might have said something nasty about migrants.
Yeah.
You know, unbelievable. Absolutely ridiculous. I agree with Peter regarding our police, says Nan in Wales. Time to start again. Stop police college, stop career police and start calling a police force again with proper bobbies. Absolutely right. And one from Heather who says 50 years of James Well putting the world to rights, that's some legacy. He has left us a platform to put our views on the airwaves and speak our minds. He always spoke his mind and he is unique in every way. Glad he is at peace. And actually it's an interesting point to make that because James Well did give people a voice and he did give people the ability to say what they thought and he gave them the confidence to do that because that's what he did. And I think if that's his legacy, then long may it be the case that we can all still speak up and have a go at whoever it is that we're not agreeing with, you know?
Yeah, especially when now so many members of the public feel that free speech is being eroded. And just to remind them that it isn't, OK?
Yeah.
Let me say, I am concerned that in my lifetime, the amount of Muslims in the UK has gone from 29,000 to 4 million.
Right.
OK? I'm concerned about that.
Yeah.
Is it Islamophobic? No.
I don't think so.
Is it a genuine concern? Yes.
Yes.
Do I have the freedom of speech, especially on this channel, to say it? Yes.
Yes.
And we can say it in pubs, in the street, OK? You're not breaking the law. By the same token, you can say in the pub, in the street, in the workplace, you should be able to say, I am concerned about unfettered illegal migration into the country. Has that broken the law? Is it prejudicial? No, no, no. It's the truth. We are free to say it. People, members of the audience, free speech has not disappeared. We have to use it. Don't break the law. Don't say something stupid. But free speech exists and we need to be using it.
Exactly right. Don't let whoever it is that tells you that you can't have it, let you stop saying things because it's pretty important to keep saying them. Let's get a voice note from Johnny.
Morning, Mike. It's Johnny in the van. Just wanted to say thanks for all the fabulous tributes to James Well. He really was the godfather of talk-based radio. And he'll be dearly missed by all of us listeners as well. Keep up the good work. Thanks, mate.
Johnny, thanks very much indeed, and good luck with the working day. Like many people out there today, 6:24 in the morning, on his way to a long day's hard graft, I'm sure. 24 minutes past 6, as we say. Peter Blexley's here. We've got plenty to talk about. A couple of really interesting stories, right? And I'll just mention these, and we'll talk about them later. A zoo in Denmark has actually asked people to bring their unwanted pets to the zoo so that they could be fed to some animals.
Yeah.
Which I find absolutely horrific. Worse than that, there's another zoo which has fed a load of baboons to the lions.
Yeah.
What's going on in the zoos of this world?
Well, the baboon population had ballooned. That's not easy to say
That's not
clearly,
easy to say.
right? So, and they had to cull some of them.
Right.
So they thought, well, what they're going to... They did try and house them, by the way, in other zoos and all that
Should have
kind
just
of
brought
stuff.
them to Dover.
Well, yeah.
And we could have housed them in Leicester or somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And so they killed these baboons and then fed them to the lions.
Doesn't sound right, though, does it?
Well, of course it does. Now, you see, we're going to be at complete odds over this, right? Complete odds, right? Apparently this zoo, I think it was in Frankfurt, had 300 complaints about seeing lions eat baboons.
Right.
Lions eat things. In fact,
do.
lions should be able to eat live things. So what I'd have done if I was director of the
set
zoo
them into the
is
field.
I'd have put a big trigger warning up there
Right.
and I'd have publicised it and I said, but tomorrow live baboons are being fed to the lions, right? You know, good opportunity to stick another quid on the ticket price and all that kind of stuff. Keep the kids away if they're going to be traumatised, right? Put them in there. What a bit of sport. I watched, and there's an Attenborough story bouncing around today. I watched an Attenborough documentary the other day. My wife and one of the boys was watching it, so I just had a brief glimpse at it. It was so woke, it was unbelievable.
Oh, I know.
It was about a pride of lions hunting a baby hippo and two adult hippos trying to protect it. They didn't show any of the capture, any of the kill, any of the eating of it. No, because that would upset too
that's
many
too
people.
upsetting, yeah.
Yeah, so by the same
Even
token...
though it's the natural world.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so it's a kind of unnatural world. Stick the live baboons in with the lions, add a couple of quid to the ticket price, I'll be at the front of the queue. What entertainment.
I've got an idea for Richard Attenborough's next show. You call it Fake Planet. Let's see how that gets on. Anyway, we'll be back after this with loads more about even the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, saying we're too reliant on immigration and it's screwing up Britain. Really? We could have told you that. This is Talk.
It's a bit of a shock, isn't it? I mean, we're all expecting it, and yeah, it's a tough one, man. It's
How long did you work with him, Ash?
30 years, yeah.
So you probably knew him. You knew him in broadcast terms probably longer than most.
Well, yeah, definitely, yeah, and it was a great ride. I mean, I remember when I first got to work with him, they said we want you to do work with James Whale, and obviously, because when I was 18, I used to watch the show on the TV, and I thought, great, this would be exciting. And it turned out it was exciting.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Coming up to 6:30, I'm Mike Graham. It is, of course, Tuesday the 5th of August. Pardon me. There was a storm that hit Scotland yesterday. There was also caravans knocked over, lots of trees down, stuff like that. We'll be talking about that coming up in a little while. Didn't really affect the rest of the country, I don't think, as far as I can tell anyway. Andrew from Salisbury says, James Whale will be greatly missed. Just a normal guy who was massively talented. He made entertaining broadcasting look easy. That's very true. This from Steve in Germany. My most sincere and deep condolences to James Whale's wife and family, and of course to everyone at Talk. I used to listen to James on Metro Radio in Newcastle whilst on leave from the RAF, one of the best radio programmes I've ever heard. Always made me sad when I had to go back to Huntingdon as I could not hear Metro. What a very great loss, RIP James. So many lovely things being said by the people who listened and watched him, because he was just a remarkable character. There's nobody really like him. I think we've got another clip. Have a look at this one. This is him clashing with Tim Spears from Just Stop Oil.
Roughly 100 species go extinct every single day, so 10,000 a year.
How many? Do you not understand
so
that's what happens?
You just interrupt me again.
No, but
James.
you're going on trotting this out.
If you do keep interrupting me.
Don't patronise me. You're very close to the frigging door.
From you. I learn from you. You're the best. I learn from the best.
You're very close to the door. What you say, you have the right to say, but you do not have the right to say your view is more important to all the rest of the people.
We're talking about the annihilation of all life on Earth, James.
We're not annihilating all life on Earth.
I mean, he just was so brilliant at dealing with those characters, you know, and eventually they'd all get thrown out of the studio, you know, at some point or other. Speaking of throwing people out, small boat migrants to be deported this week. Apparently today is the day that this one-in, one-out cobblers begins. Can you imagine, right? We unfortunately haven't got the resources to do it, but if we did have, I would have somebody standing on the cliffs of Dover with a pair of binoculars, just looking out to sea for the first boat coming in on this day, August the 5th, Tuesday, because for every one coming in, there won't be any going out.
I wonder if when a dinghy full of 70 of them arrives on the beach at Dover, I wonder if they'll empty them all off.
Yeah.
Turn the dinghy round and put the single bloke in it, right? The one that's going back, right? And you just see him sailing off back towards Calais or Boulogne or whatever.
Well, it's not very clear how this is going to work, right? Because supposedly we're going to detain these people, right? We're going to somehow, in a fairly speedy manner, work out that they don't have the right to be here, and we're going to send them back only to exchange them with some people on the other side who do have the right to come in because they've got family here.
Well, so the person...
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, so the person in France has to fulfil certain criteria.
Right.
They mustn't have tried to get into the UK illegally before.
Right.
OK. And they must have a strong qualifying claim
right.
for asylum
right.
in the UK. So how are we going to find those people? Have we got a processing centre in France?
No.
Not that I know of.
No.
So are we
just going to ask them? Excuse me. Have you tried, Mr. Blexley? Have you tried to enter Britain illegally before?
No.
Okay, then in you come. There you go. There's the process.
Yeah. So are they going to send people?
Do you have
out
some
with
family here?
clipboard?
Do you have some family here?
Yeah.
We.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
What's his name? Mohammed. Where does he live? Leicester.
Yeah.
Great. In you come.
Yeah.
It's mad, isn't it?
Will they literally parachute a couple of border force or immigration officials with a clipboard to go round those migrant camps?
Right. Well, listen.
Who's got a strong claim?
Keir Starmer, remember him? He posted an 8-second video last night on border security. Maybe he can tell us how it's going to work. That's it. Is that it? That's the video. So he hasn't even voiced it, he just posted that. So there's an extra 100 million quid going somewhere to secure Britain's borders and to smash the snuggling gongs.
With a geezer on a roof.
Yeah.
With some kind of telescope. Yeah.
I mean...
100 mil.
Yeah.
Sure, he's well paid, isn't he?
I know. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Maybe we could have Angela Eagle, maybe she can tell us what's going to happen.
When our French colleagues change their tactics, we have to change our tactics to adapt to the changing tactics of the people smuggling gang.
So it's all about tactics. We were doing this yesterday. I said I suggested 4-4-2 against the people smuggling gangs and see if that works. Although you could have more of a sort of diamond formation, obviously, if you're playing at home.
Yeah, wing backs, send one wing back a week.
False number 9 and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what you could have. But it's nonsense, isn't it? It says here, Britain has ratified a treaty with France that allows those arriving in the UK on small boats to be detained and returned across the channel. Detained where? We haven't got a detention centre, right? It is believed that about 50 migrants will be returned to France each week, with the numbers expected to decline by the end of the year. There's thousands of people arriving every week. We're going to send 50 of them back.
The human rights lawyers are already sharpening their pencils, OK? Ready to go into battle with this pathetic government.
Yes.
Because they will say their detention is unlawful. Where are they being detained? Under what powers are you detaining them?
Right.
Release them, release them. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know this is going to happen. But this government, it's been in for over a year now. Surely you have sufficient time to sit people around a table and go, right, what needs to be done? What are we going to do?
And what can we do?
Yeah, well, yes, indeed. But what can we do that is lawfully audacious, shall we say?
Yes.
But you imagine if you've got that clown and of Attorney General Hermer sitting next to you, Starmer's big human rights lawyer chum from years back, OK, who quite frankly has represented so many people that have been enemies of this state. I question Hermer's attitude sometimes and what his motivations are. You've had plenty of time to sit round and get a grip of this and be courageous enough to say, look at what Greece did last week. Greece, OK, their immigration and asylum minister, right, Greece, part of the EU, their immigration and asylum minister brilliantly went, nope, for 3 months, no asylum, no processing, you're all going into a prison.
Into a detention centre, which they're building on Crete, right?
Yeah, and they've loaded them all in there, and they're not taking anybody.
No.
Anybody that arrives in Greece next 3 months, straight into this detention centre. And there's no asylum, and they're all going to go back.
Yeah. And that's a great idea. Now, apparently, this was supposed to come into to fruition at the end of this month, but they've decided to move it forward a bit.
Yeah.
And it says, as part of the quid pro quo, the UK will take an equal number of migrants from France if they have not attempted an illegal crossing before, as you said. These will be subject to full documentation and security and eligibility checks. Well, what if they haven't got a passport? What are you going to do then? Say you can't come?
All that's missing from that line is terms and conditions apply.
Terms and conditions may apply. Even the Office of Budget Responsibility are complaining about immigration. They say in The Sun today, immigration is creating serious problems for public services. Again, this is something I've been saying for years. Why do you think it's so difficult to get a doctor's appointment? Why do you think it's so hard to get onto a waiting list to get your stuff done on the NHS? Because there's more people here than there used to be, right? And the Office of Budget Responsibility urged the government to target the out of work here rather than rely on mass migration. Immigration delays the impact of the ageing population and is the driver of population growth. Some conclude a faster rise in the population will be beneficial in alleviating acute underlying fiscal pressures, but there are serious problems with that idea. Of course there are serious problems with that idea, especially if you're importing a load of people who can't do anything, who aren't skilled at anything, who can't be employed to do anything other than drive around on a bleeding bike delivering hot food.
Yep, and all of those quotes you read out sit under the banner headline on page 2 of The Sun today. Official, migrants straining services. Well, how long have you been saying that?
I know.
A very
long time. Longer than this government's been in.
Yep, and how long has everybody else on the street saying it? And remember, you can say it, everybody. Freedom of speech is very important. Let's utilise it.
Yeah. Absolutely right. How about this? One from Jean in Newcastle. She says, morning, Mike. I usually agree with everything that Peter has to say, but I would hope his tongue was firmly in his cheek when he was talking about the zoos on the continent. When he describes what he describes about Attenborough's programmes is in the wild and not animals in captivity. The majority of zoos are, in my opinion, immoral places. However, I will forgive Peter on this occasion. Please keep up the good work. You know, shocking, absolutely shocking. I'm pretty sure that Peter wouldn't actually encourage there to be live animal sacrifices, even in Denmark. where they do some very odd things, I'm telling you, in the public domain. But that's another question. It's 6:39, back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:41. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. Peter Blexley is here, of course. It's Tuesday, the 5th of August. A lot of people really not happy with you, Peter, about the lions. Love Tuesdays with Peter, but that wasn't a good look today, talking about lions eating live baboons, and he'd be willing to pay a couple of quid extra to watch it. Come on, think again how that went down, says David, South London. And I think in tribute to James Whale, I think you take these things in the spirit in which they were intended. I'm sure you weren't actually thinking of paying money to watch animals killing each other. But listen, we live in a free world. You know, sometimes you say things that people don't agree with. Sometimes you say things that upset people. It's just the way of things, isn't it?
It is. And to all those people that I've upset this early on a Tuesday morning, well, you know, get a sense of humour.
Get a sense of humour, exactly right. Page 1 of the Telegraph, they've got... oh, no, it's not that one, is it? Where's the
Guardian.
It's
page
the Guardian.
1 of the Guardian.
Sorry, that's why. Right? Yeah, because I'm generally sort of diametrically opposed to ever saying those words.
Yes.
Page 1 of the Guardian.
Yeah.
Police warned of mass arrest. This is because Palestine Action, it turns out, over the weekend had said we're going to have a sort of mass protest that's going to be so big that the police won't be able to arrest everybody.
Yeah.
And the police are now saying, well, if you do that, we'll just arrest everybody.
Yeah. So the 5th of July, Palestine Action became a prescribed organisation. So fairly recently, the police have arrested a number of people, not only in London but in other locations around the country. Since then, people who have been showing or expressing support for this terrorist group.
Yeah.
And they've been arrested. There has been a legal challenge to Palestine Action being prescribed, and the High Court has granted a hearing for this, which I think is scheduled for September. So word on the street is that the police haven't charged or cautioned any of the people that they've arrested from Palestine Action yet.
Right.
They're going to wait and see the outcome of this legal challenge.
Right.
I think the organisation will remain prescribed.
Yeah.
Because it's not only RAF jets, of which they caused millions of pounds worth of damage to, that this organisation have been doing. They've been repeatedly targeting business, causing tens of millions of pounds worth of damage.
Yeah.
There's also stuff that's gone to the High Court that has not entered the public domain that they've been up to.
Yeah.
I think they will remain a terrorist organisation. So, anyway, there's plans at the weekend. They're trying to rally hundreds of people to come to the streets. What the intention is, really, they would like to overwhelm the police. But the police have been very forthright in saying, bring as many as you like, we're going to nick you all.
Right.
And they have to, of course.
And that's good. They have to, don't they?
They have to. So it would be very, very foolish. Of course, if the police actually screwed their loaves here, what they would do is they would have intelligence on where people are coming from. So the minute people walked up to a railway station, well, whether that be in Grantham or Guildford or Gravesend,
nick 'em there.
and they got a Palestine Action banner, boom, you're nicked.
Right.
Before they can kind of gather together, shove them in the back of the van, process them there, take the heat away from a mass gathering, so to speak. But we shall have to wait and see.
Right.
They've had plenty of notice of this, the police. They should be across it. They should be being audaciously and lawfully creative in how they're going to deal with it. And my, not that I'm sure anybody from your audience is going to be daft enough to do it, but if anybody's tuned in by mistake and you're from Palestine Action, do you know what? Don't do it.
Yeah, stay away.
Really don't do it.
Yeah, because, exactly right. I mean, some of these people just need a bit of a sort of a wake-up call to the reality of what actually happens to you when you get arrested, and what then happens to you after you get arrested and charged.
Yeah, and get a criminal conviction. Yeah. You get a criminal conviction for a terrorist offence.
Yeah.
OK, don't expect to go on holiday to too many places.
No, exactly.
Don't expect to get too many jobs.
No.
Don't expect to be made welcome.
I can't imagine it to be that good for your credit rating either.
No, exactly.
You know?
It's a foolish, daft, stupid thing to do. Not only that, but if you draw police resources away so that you're arrested for your selfish protest in central London, then don't have a moan if a victim of crime where you live doesn't get a service from the old bill on that Saturday afternoon. Or whatever it may be.
Because they're all busy trying to, corral a bunch of lefty idiots.
Because they'll have been drawn away from elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly right. Speaking of police action, there is a charge in this case as well, but the family of a Saudi Arabian student who was stabbed to death in Cambridge have warned that the UK is no longer safe for visitors. Now, this is a very damaging thing to say, and you have to say you can't disagree with it. This guy seems to have been the victim of some kind of random attack. He was a young man brimming with enthusiasm, brimming with chivalry and courage. His name was Mohammed Al-Gassim, 20 years of age, living in Cambridge, stabbed to death apparently for no particular reason.
Yeah, he came here from Saudi for a 10-week course at a college in Cambridge, and tragically had his young life cut short. A 21-year-old man has been charged with murder and is in custody. There are some glowing tributes from family members from Saudi, one of whom goes on to say how lawless Britain is.
Yeah.
And I've always found, and please don't think that I'm being disrespectful here or downplaying it, I'm using this comparison to reflect what happens with bad experiences. There's an old adage, isn't there, that if you go to a restaurant and you have a good experience, you'll tell 3 people about it or something. If you go to a restaurant and have a bad experience, you'll tell 20 people or some such number.
Right.
You tell way more people about your bad experiences than you do your good. And this is a similar kind of thing, albeit of tragic circumstances, of course. And this gets big headlines on page 13 of the Mail today.
And it's got big headlines in The National, which is a newspaper over in the Middle East, and that's the other problem, right? Because that's where people will read it.
Exactly. So when you think about so many people from the Middle East, wealthy people from the Middle East, that come to the UK in summer because the weather out there is unbearable in the Middle East, when it's 40, 45 degrees, many people travel to the UK for a month or two.
Yeah.
These are very wealthy people.
Most of them are in Oxford Street at the moment.
Yeah, and they have bodyguard teams, right, which are British.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of money going into the British economy. With employment opportunities, there are chauffeurs, of course. Yeah. There's staff
and
that
that's
wait
not to
on
mention
them.
the money they spend in shops and all the rest of it.
And the hotels, renting exclusive properties.
Yeah.
They plough a whole heap of money into the UK economy.
Yeah.
And they only stay here for a month or two, and then they go back. And they come here every year as long as they feel, number one, safe, as long as there's nice places they can go shopping.
Yeah.
These kind of stories could potentially impact upon that boost to the economy that London gets every summer.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important that we live in a country that is safer than sadly it is at the moment.
Yeah.
We need to get a grip.
Yes, we really do. One place where they are getting a bit of a grip, Hounslow Council, on the same page in the Mail, page 13, they've now decided to ban those Lime e-bikes, which is the best decision I've heard of a local council doing for a long time. They're not getting rid of e-bikes altogether, they're just these particular ones, because these are the ones that people just leave sort of strewn on the pavement, and they're not very good, it seems, on tidying them up and cleaning them up. So they've given the contract to a different outfit, one called Forest, I think, which I've seen around. But these Lime bikes are a right old menace, aren't they?
I see them regularly outside this building as well. You've got to be careful not to trip over them.
Right.
And, of course, you also see people on them, you know, when they're cycling along and they're going click, 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 click. That's because they haven't paid.
That's because they haven't paid, yeah.
Yeah, that's because they're fraudulent, thieving so-and-sos. And I see that far too frequently. Yeah, I think they are a nuisance. They're unsightly.
Yeah.
And
there's too many of them.
Away.
There's too many of them. I mean, I think there's something like 30,000 or something bikes now in London, which is there's just too many of them. I realise people like travelling that way, and lots of people think it's clean and for the environment and all that. But it's changing the face of London, and it's making people walking around actually have to look in all sorts of directions to make sure they don't get clattered into by somebody. But that is a problem. We've got one more section of the show to do. Let's read a couple more of these. Gaz in Scunthorpe says, Mike, admittedly I'm not an asylum seeker, but I'm pretty sure if I entered any country or overstayed my visa, I would soon be sent home and I wouldn't be allowed to roam around with free bed and board and pocket money. I think that is very safe to say. Good morning, Mike and Peter. So pathetic, useless Starmer, this one-in, one-out deal will take forever, and spending another 100 million on top of the 550 million they've spent already and the 700 million spent on Rwanda. What a waste of money, says Sharon in Staffordshire. Yeah, I don't know where they keep finding all this money from. But we'll be back with more from Peter Plexley after this.
It seems to me that there are these thugs that turn up just when the politics are getting really, really awkward for the government. I mean, any government that isn't terrified of women and children turning out en masse to protest against something as sensitive as immigration policy is a government with its head in the sand. And I'm afraid actually that is probably what we've got.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory at 6:55, very nearly the end of the first hour. Peter Blexley's here. We're going to have another little clip of James Whale for you. We've been celebrating his life for the past, not quite 24 hours, but very nearly. We're going to be playing clips throughout the course of the show this morning. Here's James Whale questioning UFO hunter Tony Topping over his evidence that aliens exist.
Is it that one there?
No, that's actual a visual of the UFOs over my house. That's an actual visual analysis.
Can you see that? Two little white spots?
James, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not happy with the way the interview's going. I feel you are taking the mick out of me. That's my artwork.
It's proof. Sorry,
that's my artwork,
proof.
James. You're insulting my artwork.
That's proof. You just told me that's
my
proof.
art. That's my art. Goodbye.
You said that was your proof. Good riddance. No, you're fine. You've got no answer.
You're a disgrace.
Bye-bye.
My point was
Ted, take him out.
Gone off on the
Ted, take him out. You had the chance. You wanted it shown. Then go. Be very disappointed and go.
Let's be clear. You've mocked my artwork.
How many more times? Good.
I'll leave it with you.
Good. You carry on.
Nice to meet you, man.
Goodbye.
Nice to meet you.
Honestly. You know, what is wrong with these people who believe these ridiculous things?
Quite liked him.
And they go, and don't hang around in the control room and let him start talking to everybody else, or I actually will come out and sort things. Sorry about that, Wayne.
You didn't use your buzzer, actually. I was thinking you
should have done that, shouldn't I? Yeah.
Brilliant. Ash, of course, very much part of the whole scheme there, going, I thought he was quite a nice guy. We got off on the wrong foot. Brilliant. I mean, he's so understated, Ash, you know. Yeah. And poor old Ash is quite upset about it all, I think, because naturally they were very good mates, amongst other things. Let's talk about what were we going to talk about? United States building a nuclear reactor on the moon. How about that?
Yes.
It's quite ambitious, isn't it?
Yes. I wonder what James Whale would have made of this story. I'd like to have had somebody from the US come into James's studio to discuss building a nuclear reactor on the moon.
First it's the White House ballroom, next it's the nuclear reactor on the moon.
Yeah, it's about as much credit as I'm going to give this story, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, you know, what will happen is they'll get up there and start putting the foundations down, fracturing the foundations, and they'll find that China's already done it. There's already a Chinese nuclear reactor that they built about 10 years ago.
You know, when it comes to stories about the moon and, the Chinese are going to send a rocket up there and put a man on it, I'm very fortunate to have been 10 years old when Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. And we were all up watching it on the telly. And it was mind-blowing.
It was.
For a 10-year-old.
I was similar, watching it in school, I remember.
Yeah, absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah. So for me, everything else to do with the moon thereafter is just like an anticlimax.
Do you know, I once had to contact Neil Armstrong about something when he told me to F off.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of slightly punctured my vision of him, really, to be honest.
Well, I mean...
I'll tell you what it was. It was when the Challenger blew up. Do you remember when the space shuttle blew up? And so in the usual form, I get a call from I was working in New York. Usually a call from the news desk, you know, can you try and get hold of some people? So somehow, in those days, you could find people. And I found him, and he was working as a professor at some college in Chicago. And it was one of those mad conversations where I rang him and he answered the phone. Oh, hi, is that Neil Armstrong? Yes. Is that the Neil Armstrong that walks on the moon? Yes. I'm sorry to bother you. I'm calling you about this terrible accident. And he said, I don't want to talk about it. And I said, well, you know, it would be great if you could just give us a quote. And then I kept trying and trying. And they eventually told me to F off, put the phone down.
I see both sides of that story.
I knew you would.
Yeah, indeed.
It's one of those. But there we are. And finally, BBC admits David Attenborough's new documentary was filmed in a fish tank.
I mean,
I think that ends our animal hour.
Yeah. If only they put some piranhas in there. Oh no, I've got in trouble again.
Stop.
I'm sorry. More emails.
Come on.
Sorry, everybody. It was only a gag.
Mark in Selby agrees with you. He says maybe Peter is onto something. Let's have a silverback versus polar bear pay-per-view. Listen, we're just in memory of James Whale having some fun, okay? 0344 499 1000 is the number. This is Morning Glory. We'll be back after the news.
How much, ladies and gentlemen, are fish and chips where you come from? And we'll go to Jason in Crewe.
Jason from Crewe, fish, chips and peas, £7.50. It's the best chippy in England.
Janice in Leeds, go.
Regarding fish and chips in Leeds, it's between £9.50 and £12.75.
Whitby, how much is fish and chips?
3 of us, fish, chips, peas, I think one of us curry sauce, 3 cans of pop, just short of 70 quid.
£70? That's 23 quid a head, man. Even my maths does that. Very quickly, a voice note. Campbell in Scotland, go.
Up here in Banff in the northeast of Scotland, we can get a fillet and a half of haddock with a regular chips for £8 and 10 pence, and it's by far and away one of the best chippies I've ever had.
Kenneth in Surrey, fish and chips, go.
Fish and chips in Ascot, about half a mile from where you used to live, will cost you £12 and 60 pence. Great show. Keep up the good work.
That's why I moved, because you were living there. When was the last time you had fish and chips?
A couple of weeks.
Ritz.
Couple of weeks ago.
How much? Where'd you get it from?
I think it was about 40 quid. It was it was in the Ivy.
Honestly, you really are. For any of you think he's a man of the people, I nearly said you're a...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 7. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10. Of course, it's Tuesday, the 5th of August. Welcome to the home of common sense. This morning, we're paying tribute to James Whale, who passed away yesterday. We announced that news yesterday afternoon. I was able to come in and talk to Peter Cardwell about it. Tributes came in from all over the place, all over the world yesterday. We'll be continuing that this morning. Chris Tarrant's going to be joining us, and we'll be talking, of course, to many of you who have been very kind and left some lovely messages about James and what he did either for you and just what he did for everybody, really. What he did for us. He had fought cancer for a very long time. For the second time, he had been pretty much diagnosed with terminal cancer 5 years ago. And he managed to go all the way to yesterday, where he unfortunately passed away. But we will be paying tribute to him. We're playing a load of clips, as you can see. If you're watching the show right now, we'll bring you that throughout the course of the day. This morning, the big story is that it's the beginning, supposedly, of the end of the migration problem in this country. If you think that's true, I've got some swampland in Florida to sell you. Basically, the one-in, one-out scheme apparently begins today. So I'm going to ask anyone who happens to be anywhere near the south coast of England, if you see anybody coming in on a small boat, could you please tell them that I'm afraid since you've come in, we're going to have to send somebody out. So, you know, it's literally that's the way the system's going to work. I'm not sure if there's going to be any level of success to this at all, but according to a piece in the Daily Telegraph this morning, Britain has ratified a treaty with France that allows those arriving in the UK on small boats to be detained and returned across the Channel. There's been no explanation of exactly how that's going to work. Where exactly are they going to detain them? How exactly are they going to get them back across the Channel? Are Border Force going to put them on a boat and take them all the way back to the French coast? Are the RNLI going to reverse rescue them and put them on a boat and take them across to France? Are they going to be put on military vessels? Are they going to be put on dinghies? Are the dinghies going to go back? I mean, there are so many questions. Nobody seems to know exactly how it's going to work. 0344 499 1000 is the number. Also, we'll be telling you about why even the Office for Budget Responsibility has now come out and said this country is too reliant on immigration and we need to actually start employing some of the people who don't have jobs, who are not actually in work right now, but who are British people who are simply on benefits. I mean, why has it taken this country so long to figure this out? The idea that we've been allowing people in for so long without actually giving them anything to do is extraordinary. The benefits bill in this country is soaring. Hundreds of billions of pounds going south that we'll never see again being given to people for doing nothing. Absolutely ridiculous. We're also going to be talking about a great many other things, including the Ozempic patients that need support for over a year after they stop taking the fat jabs. Also, we'll be talking about why Israel is now saying that Keir Starmer and Britain are giving prizes for terror. Absolutely shocking stuff. It's 7:05. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. Also, on the front page this morning of The Times, there's a very interesting story about how Keir Starmer is supposedly basically getting the police to give out more information. Nigel Farage has accused the Warwickshire Police of a cover-up over the case of two migrants who have been charged with the rape of a 12-year-old girl, alleged rape, I should say, of a 12-year-old girl. And, of course, what they didn't do was release any information regarding the ethnicity or the nationality or details of who the men actually were. So now, according to The Times, Keir Starmer is urging the police to actually be more open and transparent, which doesn't really exactly fit with what he's done before. Morning, Mike, says Mike. With regards to policing, when I was a kid, me and my mate got caught scrumping by a local bobby and got a clip round the ear, and we deserved it. However, now I would be sceptical about increasing the police until we can be sure they will act fairly and without bias. Well, that is the problem, isn't it? A very simple first step to cut illegal immigration, is to stop legal aid for them, says Sean in Gloucester. How many lawyers will rate their cases on a pro bono basis? None, I would guess. We can then move on to other steps like removing them. Yeah, well, I mean, again, I don't know how this system is going to work because the government hasn't explained it. All you get from Keir Starmer is these sort of rather ridiculously vague tweets that he puts out. One that he put out yesterday: I will use every tool at my disposal to secure our borders. We are investing in our Border Security Command, extra officers and new technology to smash the gangs, putting lives at risk in the Channel. That's my plan for change in action. Is it? Well, what is the actual plan? Because he doesn't seem to explain it. Then he says, people smuggling gangs only care about one thing: profit. So we are going to smash their business model and secure our borders. Well, fine, great. But, you know, what does that actually mean? For heaven's sake, let's talk to Alex Wilson, Reform UK's London Assembly member. Maybe he's got an idea of exactly how this is going to work. Alex, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
I'm struggling to see what the actual detail of this plan for one in, one out actually is. I mean, we all know that it's not going to be one in, one out, even when it was first announced amongst much sort of, you know, fanfare when Emmanuel Macron was visiting Keir Starmer. You know, it was more like 17 in and one out, because we know for a fact, I think, that there are at least, what is it, 25,436 people have come into this country illegally on the small boat since January. Since Keir Starmer was Prime Minister, 48,678. And at the very most, we're going to kick out something like 2,500.
Absolutely. So you've just highlighted there the figures that have come across since the beginning of this year and since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister after the general election last year. And on both counts, you know, he talks about smashing the gangs, but the only thing he's smashing is the records for illegal crossings across the Channel. And this one in, one out policy, we've heard that as a maximum, it might look to take about 50 back each week, and of course one coming in return for each of those 50. So it's a drop in the ocean. It's a gimmick. I think I saw Starmer yesterday saying that the time for gimmicks is over. Well, he's not reading his own briefings. Obviously, this is just a gimmick. It's a drop in the ocean. It won't help tackle the fundamental problem, which is the pull factors. If you're going to stop these illegal crossings, you need to stop the incentive for coming. That means you need to stop putting them up in you know, really, you know, 4-star hotels. You need to stop giving them free board and lodging, stop giving them free NHS dental care. I mean, yeah, you and I, we'd struggle to get an NHS dentist. These guys get it on a plate. I know
loads of people who just don't have a dentist and they can't get on an NHS dental list because there simply aren't any in their area.
Exactly, and yet these people are getting it as part of the overall package that they're receiving just for crossing illegally. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's got to stop. But the only way, as I say, you're going to stop it is to stop the incentives of coming in the first place. Right. You can talk about the gangs and smashing the gangs and the business model. The business model is predicated upon the fact that people want to cross because they want to come here because they know we're soft touch.
Yeah, exactly right. But also, you know, do we not think that the government owes us some kind of explanation as to how they're going to, repatriate these characters. They say they're going to be detaining them in Dover or wherever it is they land, and then they're going to be taking them back to France. But they don't explain how they're going to do that. I mean, because I don't know if it's Border Force, as I say, that are going to take them. I don't know whether it's the Navy that's going to take them. Are they going to be put on a ferry? Are they going to be put back in a dinghy and taken back across? I mean, I just don't know.
Yeah, well, like a lot of things that come out of this government, it's very, very thin on detail and not telling us the whole picture, I think. And the other thing that they're not telling us is, I've read this morning that this is now actually only a time-limited scheme. So within 10, 11 months, it's going to come to an end anyway, and then we're back to square one, even with the limited effect that this possibly might have had it been a more ongoing scheme. And of course, we'll have a change of government in France at some point, and we'll see what happens then. But for the time being, this just simply isn't going to make a meaningful difference, and people are still going to be angry. People are still going to be very concerned about what's going on in their communities with these hotels popping up all over the place. And people want to have their voice heard.
And of course, the other story that's exercising an awful lot of people, including Nigel Farage, your party leader, is the business of what the police have been doing up in Warwickshire. And obviously, because there are charges that have been brought against these two migrants who are accused of alleged rape of a 12-year-old girl, we can't get into too much about them. But what we can get into is why the police made a decision to basically withhold information from people. And what they say, Alex, is that basically there is no national guidance which says that you have to share ethnicity or immigration status. Well, surely that's incorrect. It's wrong, isn't it?
It's a piece of information that should be recorded and should be shared. And you've even seen Keir Starmer saying that the police should be more transparent with this kind of stuff, which is very surprising to hear that come out of his mouth. I'm sure in a week's time he'll have reverse ferreted again, as he did with his Island of Strangers speech. You can't actually take seriously a single word that he says.
Well,
but
again,
on the fundamental question, yes, this information should be released. People have a right to know what is going on in their communities. And the three kind of cases that have been talked about quite a lot in the media, obviously the case in Epping, which I guess triggered the original round of protests there. Yeah. This alleged case in Warwickshire, and also an alleged case in Stockport in Greater Manchester. Those are the ones that we've heard about. There's an awful lot more cases we haven't heard about. We're not being told, but we have a right to know.
Yeah.
Because we're the ones that are paying for all this, and we're the ones whose families and so on are at risk if things go wrong.
And this is why so many demonstrations are going on up and down the country as well, because people have lost confidence in the system, they've lost confidence in the police, they've lost confidence in the judicial system, and they feel as though they're not being told the truth. I mean, Number 10 has said that all authorities should be, in their words, as transparent as possible. Well, that doesn't mean transparent, does it?
Well, I guess that's in the hands of the both the political and operational leadership of the respective police forces. I've always been very, very supportive of rank and file officers on the ground who are doing a difficult job every single day, putting their lives on the line to keep us safe. But they are, we've talked at great length about what's going on in London, and we have a situation where the police officers on the ground are not given the backing and the support of both their political leadership in the mayor and the operational leadership in the commissioner, and I'm sure that's replicated across the country as well. It's why things have got to change. So I'm delighted to have seen yesterday Rupert Matthews joining us as Reform UK's first police and crime commissioner, because now we can actually start to show that political leadership can be on the right side of law and order, both of the police doing their job, but also of the hard-working taxpayer who's paying for all of this and who's the victim of crime and need that support as well. Yeah,
absolutely right. And that is quite a big sort of scalp, isn't it, for Reform to get their hands on. And he said yesterday, basically, antisocial behaviour has turned town centres and high streets into an apocalyptic wasteland of lawless Britain. And he says we need to cut the dark heart of wokeness out of the criminal justice system and allow the police and the courts to get back to what they're supposed to be doing, which is keeping our communities safe. And I mean, I have to say, most people listening to this show will agree with that.
Absolutely, I couldn't put it better myself. I was watching the press conference yesterday. It was a really pivotal moment, I think, in the development of Reform as a party that's taking this issue very, very seriously indeed. We're midway through our kind of 6-week summer campaign on crime. It's an issue that I hear from so many people in London that they're concerned about, because as we know, Sadiq is failing. It's the one thing of all others that he's seriously failing on. But it's the same across the country. We need to take back control of our streets. We need to back those police officers who want to keep our streets safe. We need to improve the judicial system, the prison system, and having Vanessa Frake joining us yesterday as well. We're assembling a team of real experts who are going to guide us developing that policy, putting the flesh on the bones as we get closer to the general election. But fundamentally, we need a party that's going to stand up and say the failures of the Conservatives in government and Labour in government have gone on for too long. We need change. We need reform. Britain is lawless. Something has to change. We're going to try and offer that.
Well, it really does. I mean, everywhere you look, there's a story in the paper this morning from Cambridge about a young Saudi student who came to Cambridge for a 10-week course, found himself being stabbed to death by an assailant. Also, now there's a charge in that case as well. So, again, we can't talk too much about the actual circumstances. However, his family is saying Britain is now too dangerous a place to visit.
Yeah, and it's terrifying, and it's going to have an impact on all sorts of other things. People are not going to want to come here, tourists, investors, business people, and spend their money and create economic activity here if it's not safe. We've got to get back to a system where the rule of law and property rights and individual safety are guaranteed, and that way we can do all the other things that we want to do. But if you don't have a safe society, have that kind of breakdown, then everything else will follow.
Yeah.
And we're at a crossroads. We really are. There's one chance to get this right, and it comes in the next election. It's going to be a long 4 years before then, where things are definitely going to get worse. But we've got that opportunity, and we're going to do everything we can as a party to make sure people have got that choice, take back control of our streets, and make things safe again.
And when it comes to your responsibilities in the London Assembly, are you able to ask questions about what's going on in terms of some of the migrant hotel protests that have been happening? Because we saw at the weekend quite a big one outside the Britannia in Canary Wharf, and another one in Clerkenwell at the Barbican, where there was, I think, a Thistle Hotel which has been occupied by migrants as well. In both cases, you see the migrants inside the hotel kind of jeering and leering out the windows and sort of taking pictures of the protest outside, almost as though they couldn't give a stuff. They don't care. A lot of police obviously around those areas as well. There's no sign that that's going to stop anytime soon. What can you do in terms of putting pressure on Sadiq Khan to sort of talk about this?
Yeah, well, all Assembly members, and myself included, have the opportunity to ask questions. We have a meeting roughly once a month called Mayor's Question Time, where we can have a verbal exchange, but also submit a number of written questions. The actual time I get in the meeting is very, very limited because I'm only one member, and everything in that place is done strictly proportionally on the size of the group. But what I will do, the next Mayor's Question Time meeting, I'll submit some written questions about this very subject and try and get some answers. But the next meeting that we've got to discuss anything related to kind of crime, policing, safety is on Wednesday this week. We have an emergency meeting of the Assembly to discuss the plans that were kind of hastily kind of sneaked out only a week or two ago from the Met, that they're now looking to close half of the front counters in police stations. Now, this goes clearly against one of Khan's own re-election pledges, which was to ensure there would be at least one front counter open in every one of London's 32 boroughs. That pledge is going to be broken. I say this was kind of released after we'd effectively gone into recess. So we've had an emergency meeting called to discuss this. But of course, Khan himself has refused to come. He's sending his deputy. Mark Rowley, the Met Commissioner, he's refused to come. He's sending a deputy. So it's very much the B team being given to us to question. But what I think that shows, as well as the real importance of that issue itself, it shows the utter contempt that mayor has, not just for the Assembly, who is there to scrutinise him, but more importantly for the people who voted us all in. I say that again, contempt. The mayor holds Londoners in contempt, and I think that's not good enough.
No, I think you're right, because they think they're above sort of questioning some of these people, don't they? They don't like it at all. Good to talk to you. Alex Wilson, thank you very much indeed, from UK's London Assembly member. This one from Joanna in Salisbury about James Whale. She says, I found James Whale in talkTV accidentally through someone making a snide remark that I'd been watching talkTV. Curious, I put it on. The first time I watched James, he had an idiot guest on who was annoying me with his comments. James physically launched him out of the studio. Wow. From that moment, I was hooked. How had I missed him all my life? Best wishes to Nadine and to all. A sad day. Joanna, thank you very much indeed for that. An awful lot of people enjoyed watching and listening to James Whale over the course of the decades that he did the job that he did. Quite a remarkable man. We'll continue with those tributes. Chris Tarrant coming on the show later on as well. 19 minutes past 7.
a largely uncritical documentary. I mean, they didn't sort of look into the harms that she was doing in any significant way. They didn't interview any of the men who were using her, and I do say using. I mean, essentially, they put their penises inside her for 45 seconds and called it sex. I mean, it's absolutely grotesque.
I mean, lucky her. I have to say, I mean, you are just reducing yourself to just, I'm sorry, you're just a number of holes at that point, aren't you? You're not a human being in any meaningful way when you're doing that.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:23. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. Of course, Julie Hartley-Brewer here then. Such sad news about James Whale, says Stephen. I'm 65 and from Newcastle upon Tyne. I used to listen to his night owl slot for Metro Radio, broadcast from Gateshead in the late 70s. What a great guy. R.I.P. And one here from Francis who says, we don't want any migrants. We want to call a national border emergency. Get rid of the illegal criminals. Get rid of the ones that are in hotels. Get rid of the ones in HMOs. Get rid of the benefits claimants. Get rid of human rights lawyers for illegals. Then we can establish a proper border force who actually do what it says on the tin. Oh, I forgot. They can't hear us. Selective hearing syndrome, says Francis in Deal. Well, this is the thing. We're reading this morning that this is the start of the one in, one out situation right now. Ever since it was announced that there was this one in, one out new system that was going to be used, I've just said everybody knows it won't be one in, one out, because it'll be one out and 17 in minimum, possibly even more than that. But also, the way that it's described in the newspapers this morning, and I'm going to read you a piece from the Telegraph, says that these people who are now coming in will be detained and then sent back to France. Now, I've got no idea how that's going to work, so let's ask Andrew Griffith MP, Shadow Business and Trade Secretary, if he's got any idea how this system is supposed to be operational, because there doesn't appear to be any evidence, Andrew, that it will work. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Always good to be here at the home of common sense. And you are absolutely right. The Home Secretary is flailing around. This is one of those re-announcements. They've got nothing sensible to say. The boats are arriving every single day. And let's just unpick this a little bit. First of all, nobody should be coming in a small boat from France. France is a safe country. They've got some slightly exotic tastes in food, but they are a safe country. They're a G7 nation. They're a member of the P5 United Nations Permanent Security Council. So nobody in the first place should be coming from France. We saw that one famous dinghy just before President Macron met the Prime Minister that they actually managed to find and puncture and stop. We've never seen a single picture since then of the French police actually stopping. And I put it to you, if each one of these small boats, instead of carrying migrants to the UK, was carrying pieces of artwork from Le Louvre, do we not think that the gendarmerie would be able to stop each and every one of those boats? Yeah. Now, the numbers, there is a role for return scheme. And there is an incentive about this. It's an economic activity. But the idea that you're going to have 94 in and 6 maybe returned at best just shows what a flawed scheme this is. That is not going to be a deterrent. If I said to you, would you buy a lottery ticket to a life of benefits and luxury, and you've got a 94% chance of winning and just a 6% chance of maybe being returned if the Home Secretary's scheme works, then I think you would take that bet. And that is why this is a flawed scheme. The government, because they are refusing to do things like withdraw from the ECHR, they can't put in place a proper returns. Our jails are full of foreign offenders, and we've seen a record number of arrivals since this government came to power.
Well, this is the trouble. I mean, according to, again, the piece I'm looking at here, 800 people will be taken back to France by the end of the year. I mean, that's literally one day's crossing on a good day for some of these people.
Not even a whole day, some days.
Some days it's more than that, yeah. And of course, they're saying that if they do take people back, they will then be replaced by some other people who they will have checked in terms of their eligibility for coming to the UK. Well, again, I'm sorry, that sounds like more of an incentive to get to Calais to try and get to Britain, doesn't it?
Yeah, and look, we had a return scheme that would have worked. It was designed and ready to go, the Rwanda scheme. It took some time to get through the courts. But the key point about that is it would have been every single arrival. And that would properly have broken the incentive to come here, get that path to indefinite leave to remain and citizenship and welfare benefits, access to our NHS, pricing our young people out of property, taking the jobs of British people, many of whom are sitting at home on welfare. So we had a scheme that worked. And this Home Secretary, in her first few days in office, cancelled that 100% return scheme. A year later, after presiding over the biggest arrival since the Norman Conquest, she's now come up with a very poor imitation that simply won't work. It's not equal to the scale of the challenge. And your viewers see day after day what is happening in communities across the United Kingdom. We need a much more muscular response. The government needs to stop being a government of lawyers and actually tackle the immigration system, the tribunals, look at international laws and properly come up with a scheme that will actually deal with this and kill it dead, rather than just performative words like stop the gangs and then preside over an ever-increasing number of arrivals to this country. We just can't afford it. It's not like Rachel Reeves has left the economy in such a wonderful state that we can invite the world here to come and share in our prosperity.
Well, that's the other problem, isn't it? Because things have really ratcheted out of control in the year that Keir Starmer, just over a year now since he's been in. I mean, I know it wasn't great under the Tories and there were lots of people coming over illegally when you were in power, but it seems to have sort of turbocharged in the past year.
Yeah, everything is going much faster in the wrong direction. I mean, we see that with the economy. Unemployment has gone up every single month. Does this lot listen? No, they do not. They're piling on 300 pages of red tape in the Employment Rights Bill. That's a big sop to their union friends and donors. But also, by the way, it's another great piece of work for employment lawyers. The immigration tribunals are having great time of it with these record number of small boat arrivals. I mean, if you're objective, what it tells you is this government just didn't have a plan, right? Their plan was, oh, well, we don't like the Tories, despite the fact we were starting to get to grips with the small boats crisis that was caused mostly by lefty bishops in the Lords and the court system. We were starting to turn around the economy and get that growing again after COVID. Yes, debt was too high then, but debt has much, much more ballooned since then, and we're facing a potential of a doom loop, which the only thing that this Chancellor is going to do is come back for more of your viewers' money, whether it's their savings, their investments, their pensions, even their inheritance, to plug her goal, because she only knows she's only got one stick to pull, which is spend more taxpayers' money.
Yeah, I'm afraid so, and that is not a good look for any of us, really, and we wonder whether the summer is going to bring even more kind of economic El Collapso. We shall see. Andrew, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Andrew Griffith, MP. Let's get a voice note from Tony.
Hi, mate. Great show as usual. Tony from Bradford here. Look, I'm confused. I just don't know why all these illegal immigrants want to come to the UK. I mean, what do they get? They just get, living in a 4-star hotel, food, board. They get free housing also, and they get free medical at the front of the line. They get clothes, tickets for the football matches. I've even heard driving lessons. I just don't understand why they'd want to come here.
Well, I mean, it's a lot better for them than it is for us, I think is probably the straight answer to that, Tony, because in the end, if you come here with nothing and you get given something, then that's better than starting with something and ending up with nothing, which is sort of how it works for us. Just before we talk to Claire Pearsall, former Special Advisor to the Minister for Immigration, let's have a quick look at another James Whale clip, because we are celebrating James's life today as much as we were yesterday. In the good old days when you could manhandle somebody, James Whale actually kicks the RMT union's former Assistant General Secretary Steve Headley out the studio. Check it out.
Well, you want to talk rubbish? Go and talk to the BBC or some other.
What do you think about the Hamas?
I don't want you.
What about free speech?
Was
James?
Hamas?
They went out in 2000.
You need to look at your history books. 2005, they all left.
1947 is when the Nakba happened. I've never met such ill-informed people in my life.
Quiet.
Countries
seriously, can you be quiet?
Arab countries actually gave the Jews refuge when the Holocaust was happening. How about that?
They were on the Nazi side. You don't know your history.
You don't know your history.
I don't know what he says. I'm executive producer.
Are you terrorist state?
Right, come on.
James, you're trying to assault me, James. You're trying to assault me, James.
I'm an old man with cancer.
Well, James, don't please.
Well, do what I ask and go.
I'm not going to go. And you won't be able to remove me, James. So please don't.
Why? What are you going to do?
I'm making a statement. I'm making a statement here for Palestine.
A statement of rubbish. She's talking rubbish.
Take your book and go out and support Palestine. I know you want to hit me.
I'm not going to hit you, James.
No, you're not. You're absolutely right.
Not at all.
You equate Hamas with Israel.
You're a silly little man.
Well,
you're a silly little man. A genocide enabler. A genocide enabler, James.
You talk crap. That's
You're
all
a genocide enabler.
All you can spout is that crap, isn't it? Genocide and that. From the river to the sea. Genocide.
Unbelievable stuff. Some incredible stuff that happened on that show overnight and also late into the evening as well, as he was described yesterday by Denny Morris, the godfather of talk radio. Let's talk now, though, to Claire Pearsall, former special advisor to the Minister for Immigration. Claire, very good morning to you.
Morning, and I absolutely love that clip, and it's incredibly hard to follow up with the great James Whale, but I shall give it a good go.
Give it a good go. I'm sure he'd be very much appreciative of what we were about to do. I can't quite fathom what this government is up to when it comes to immigration. They keep putting out these ludicrous sort of tweets on the Prime Minister's account and also on the Downing Street account, telling us that they've got a plan, telling us that they're smashing the gangs, telling us that, they've got this fantastic new method of removing people. But they don't actually explain how exactly it's going to work. I mean, they say they're going to detain them and then they're going to take them back to France. Well, who's going to take them back to France? Do you know?
No, I don't. And the Home Secretary clearly doesn't know either. And it's the same thing. Whenever there is a new announcement on immigration, I sit with bated breath, waiting for the details so that I can have a look at it, see if it's going to make any difference. And all you get is a headline in a newspaper, the Home Secretary sounding very caring and very strong on the media round, but any detail of it is just non-existent. Where are we going to detain people? Where are you returning them to? Those questions are unanswered. You keep getting, well, we're going to smash the gangs. Yeah. We're better than the Conservative Party. And that is all their policy seems to be.
Yeah, it seems bizarre, doesn't it? Because I don't know about what the legality is. You might know more than I do. But, I mean, presumably Border Force can't deliver them back on Border Force boats to France. I presume the RNLI can't do it. I presume they're not going to use the Navy to do it. They can't really use the dinghies to do it. So by what method could they possibly be returning them?
You're right. You can't legally just pitch your boat up on the French coast and drop people off. And equally, we would have the same problem if the French decided to boat them across to the UK themselves. We would have an issue with that. So you can't do that. But where are you also going to detain them? Because there are laws around unlawful detention. If you have no reason to detain somebody, then you can't do that either. So unless they're going to substantially change the law and put some very big migrant camps together where people are locked in, then I can't see that this is any different from any other scheme over at least the last 20 years.
Right, exactly right. And so, I mean, Angela Eagle was out yesterday talking about tactics. I don't know whether you spotted this, but have a listen to this.
That is going to change soon when our French colleagues change their tactics. We have to change our tactics to adapt to the changing tactics of the people smuggling gang.
There's quite a lot of tactics going on there. Not much of a clue, though, really, unfortunately, sadly.
No, I did wonder if she was about to launch into maybe some football commentary at the time, because there were some really interesting words, but nothing actually hung together. I don't know what tactics we have currently and what she wishes to change it to. And seemingly the government don't. They keep saying, well, let's wait until the autumn. Well, which autumn in particular are we looking at? Is that next year? Is it the year after? Right. Sometime in 2030? I don't know. Because the real problem is the scheme that they do have up and running, this so-called one in, one out, is essentially a 1 in 17 chance of people being able to stay here. Now,
Right.
if you were a desperate person on a beach who had paid a lot of money to a smuggler, a 1 in 17 chance of staying in the UK is a really good odds, and you would take that. But also this clearing of the backlog that the Home Secretary was on over the weekend talking about, to me, that just seems like it's going to be an amnesty on asylum seekers. How are you going to clear 72,000 cases that are just in the backlog? They're going to be granted, aren't they? Because you aren't going to be able to get rid of these people. You're not going to have the resources to pile into it. So you can see that these grants are going to go up, and she's going to hope that nobody notices.
But that's the thing. I mean, this 1 in, 1 out scheme, which is never going to be 1 in, 1 out anyway, it's not going to reduce the number of people already here. And so, you know, all these migrant hotels that are full to the brim with people who have come already, once they move them out into HMOs, once they move them out into a private accommodation, they're never really going to be able to empty the hotels out because more people are coming in and they'll have to put them in there.
Well, this is it. So unless they're going to substantially change what we do in the UK, and it will be a really interesting day when you see a Labour government building essentially what are prison camps to put people in. I don't think that you and I will ever see that. I don't think the British people believe that they will see that either. But I think that is the only way you're going to bring a deterrent to people coming to this country, is to say you're not going to be put up in a hotel. You are going to have very basic rations, and you are going to be held somewhere in prison-like circumstances until we can deem who you are and whether you're eligible to come to the UK. But until that happens, we haven't got a system that's going to work at all.
No, brilliant, fantastic. Claire, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Claire Pearsall there, former Special Advisor to the Minister for Immigration. George says this in the West Midlands. When I crossed to France in my camper van at Dover, I'm met by armed French border control staff who check my passport and search my van before I'm allowed to board the ferry. Why aren't there British border control staff in Calais stopping the boats? Well, that's a very good question. I don't understand why that would be. Because if we let the French in to do it in England, why won't the French let us have patrols in France? It makes perfect sense to me. 7:38.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:41. I'm Mike Graham with you, of course, all the way through until 10 o'clock. Daryl from Bournemouth says this: given these small boat people clearly arrive as criminals, why can't we tag them as soon as they arrive on our shores? That would seem an obvious thing to do, isn't it? Brian up north says, this morning, lads, my everlasting memory of James Whale is he told me Elvis had died back in 1977 on his late night talk show on Metro Radio. I was 14 and used to listen against my parents' wishes on a small transistor radio. So many stories like that. Morning, Mark from Mark from Somerset here. I remember some of the arguments you had with James, but you always remained friends afterwards. There is a clip on YouTube with yourself, James and Mark Dolan. Did make me laugh. A great show and a great tribute. We did have some very good arguments, actually. I'd forgotten about those. We might have to dig some of those out for maybe later in the week, because we'll continue to bring you tributes to James Whale, who passed away yesterday, of course, as we announced right here on Talk. Let's talk now, though, about doctors, because Dr. Tek Kong is here, former doctor and leader of the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom Party, because story in the paper today suggests that a third of GPs' visits are now carried out remotely. Latest NHS England figures show 33.3% of consultations were conducted over the phone or online in June. Now, some people say this is actually an improvement in the NHS because not everybody has to go and see a doctor physically. But is it really? Let's ask Dr. Tek. Dr. Tek, very good morning to you.
Good morning, mate.
Is it true that this is an improvement in the service, or do you think it's a sign that the service is not quite what it should be?
I think the headline figure might sound impressive, but the details are not right at all, and certainly very far from the truth. I think we have to look at the quality, the caliber of the consultation, the type of people actually making the diagnosis, and the people managing the treatment.
I mean, one of the things that I hear an awful lot from people who listen to this show and to watch it is that they can't even get an appointment, whether it's in person or not.
Indeed. I mean, all of us are patients at one time, and even as a GP, I have to have medical care, medical review. And when I turn over the window, the receptionist had the temerity to say, please, can you make your appointment online?
Yeah.
Well, I say, I'm standing in front of you physically. I don't know when this regime came up, because when I first became a GP in 1982, I believe I was very accessible to all my patients without exception.
Yeah.
This is not the way to carry on, really.
No. Well, it started during COVID, didn't it? Because I always tell the story of when people used to send in, things that they'd seen out and about, and there was one particular sign that was outside a doctor's GP surgery, which said on the door, please do not enter if you are ill. And you're kind of going, well, surely that's the whole point, isn't it?
Point. Absolutely right. I think a service that proclaims itself to be a health service but doesn't actually pay interest to the people with health concerns isn't a health service at all. It is not fit for service. And I tell you, the decline of the NHS, the service, the compassion, the care predated COVID. It was already on decline. I think back in the late 1990s, I was coming across notices which you say on doctors' doors and notices and so on. 10-minute consultation, one problem, one appointment. Whoever designed that? Because a lot of people present with illnesses which are multi-symptomatic. And if you say, look, I've got a broken toe, and then you're not allowed to talk about the skin around it, what sort of medicine is that?
Yeah. Well, this is the trouble. Do you think the NHS has become overburdened with sort of bureaucracy? Because I hear from people who work in hospitals that there's more people now working than ever in the NHS, but fewer of them are actually involved in what you might call sort of front-of-house clinical jobs.
Exactly right, Mike. Caliber is what we're talking about. You know, if you take the brightest of school leavers, you put them in medical school, train them to develop clinical acumen, but when they come out, when they graduate and work in the community or in hospitals, you do not want to burden them with protocols and guidelines which stricture their thinking. You want professional autonomy that exhibits the flair of a good clinician. We don't have that anymore. We are all bound by protocols. If you deviate, you risk being censured.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you this. When I first became a GP in 82, the bulk of my payment came from capitation, which means the better I look after my patients, the word of mouth spreads about my reputation being caring and so on, my list size became bigger and I became more affluent. Towards the end of my career, in the 2020s, what it was, it formed a miserly 15 to 20%. The rest made up of targets. So what it is the government has corrupted the professional ethos. By giving doctors financial incentives, the doctors have learned to target payments, okay? and they forget about the patient. The patient should be at the prime of all doctors' consideration, not targets. Yet, I don't blame the doctors, because if that's a system that pays my livelihood, that's a system I'll have to work to.
Sure. Would it be better if GPs were paid per treatment as opposed to per number of patients that they have on their books?
I think there should be a multivariate way of actually paying doctors. It should be based on the way the problems present, because if you're a good doctor and the majority of the patients attending you rather than your partner or whatever it is, your patients have more complex problems, and the doctor who's more sympathetic and probably doesn't actually do very much gets less patients. I don't think it's a numbers situation, and neither should it be a resolution problem, because if you have more complex problems to deal with, you would take longer time. There'd be a longer time of resolution. There may even be a higher fatality rate. So I think that there are various factors to take into consideration. I had a colleague once in Colville who was very, very sympathetic. So he had most of the mental health cases. But, you know, they were actually castigating him for taking a long time seeing cases. Now, it's not the right way to go about to criticize people if you don't understand the circumstances behind it. And that chap committed suicide because people were harrying him for his what is considered a low output.
Right.
But I think he was working very assiduously to look after people with very grave mental health problems.
Yeah, it's a very, very mixed up system, isn't it? It doesn't seem to work in any kind of way, shape or form. No part of it seems to work either. Dr. Tek, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Dr. Tek Kong there, former doctor and leader of the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom Party. He's a former GP, of course, and said it was long before COVID when the NHS started to go off the rails. I think he's right. Let's get a voice note from Adrian.
Hi Mike, it's Adrian from East Sussex, driving off to work to help fund the Starmer nonsense. I've got a plan to deal with these illegal immigrants. Very simple, 3 stages. Stage 1, you check out all the nail bars, car washes, Deliveroo companies, and you shut them down if they're not operating legally, or you fine them £60,000 per illegal immigrant. Stage 2, you actually take away the pocket money, so they don't get any money at all from the state. They get fed and they get housed. Stage 3, you do security checks on all their mobile phones and devices we give them. I'm sure MI5 can help to see which countries in the world they're communicating routinely with, because I suspect that's where you need to send them back.
Brilliant. Adrian, I mean, it's a 3-stroke genius, that isn't it? It's just basically a strategy for actually doing something about the people that are here, monitoring them properly and understanding where they come from so you can send them back. Brilliant. I mean, it's literally a stroke of genius. How is it possible that this useless government can't come up with anything like that? Instead, what we've got is a rather nebulous plan to supposedly detain people, we don't know where, to then send them back, we don't know how. That's it. The end. 1 in, 1 out. No, it's not going to work, is it? Yvette Cooper, by the way, is funnily surfaced. She's apparently talking to some other outlets. Not this one, obviously. A bit like Angela Regal yesterday. She didn't want to talk to us either. So we'll see what Yvette Cooper's got to say about this, but I suspect we won't be any the wiser once we find out what she's been telling everybody else. 10 minutes to 8. fascinating. I mean, he had a really wide circle of friends as well, you know, from the shows that he did on TV, where there was quite a lot of, you know, very well-known people. And we heard Ash saying he interviewed Spike Milligan. You know, he had an incredible way about him. I remember when we did a tribute to him, you know, a lifetime of nighttime.
I remember that, yeah.
Which
I remember watching it.
Assuming we'll be showing again. We recorded it a couple of years ago, and some of the things that I hadn't seen until we did that show, you know, like the incredible scenes of him. He had some woman on.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:53. I'm Mike Graham. This from John in Rugby says, I, like very many others, was saddened to hear of the passing of your friend and colleague James Well. My condolences to his wife Nadine and family, and all at Talk on the day when James is laid to rest. There will be tears and laughter when people remember and celebrate the life of a good man. I don't think he'd want people to be sad. In fact, I think he would want people to have a whale of a time. What better tribute could there be? R.I.P. James. John, thank you very much indeed for that. Let's talk now, though, to David McKelvey, because he's a former Metropolitan Police Detective, Chief Inspector and CEO of TMI and My Local Bobby. One of the big stories on the front pages today, on the front page of the Times, is apparently Keir Starmer is asking police forces around the country and all authorities to be as transparent as possible following the scandal in Warwickshire, where the police there basically withheld information about two suspected migrants, suspected rapists, actually, migrants who have been charged with the alleged rape of a 12-year-old girl. They deliberately did not release information about their immigration status or their ethnicity. David, very good morning to you. Hello, David, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. I'm not sure about Keir Starmer asking for transparency here. There seems to be some confusion about what the police are required to do. They say there's no such guidance that tells them that they have to release the ethnicity and the immigration status of people who are being charged or being questioned. But since when has that been the case?
Well, I think that's the guidance that's come out from the policing college. But of course, you know, you have recently had the Merseyside incident where the car ran over people in Liverpool. Yes. And of course, Merseyside police were very, very quick to come out and identify that the suspect in that was English white man. Yeah. So I think it's you know, it's a case by case basis, and you understand why Warwickshire, completely understand why Warwickshire do not want to release that information, because you know, there's a lot of anger out there, and potentially it could lead to disorder. Yes, but I mean, eventually these things always become known, and unfortunately, with what we saw in Southport last year, the result of not releasing information, and I think a KC who investigated it and did a sort of inquiry into what happened in Southport, said that the actual non-release of information was what led to the disorder. So you sort of can't have it both ways, can you? Either you say that there's going to be disorder if you do release information, or you say there's going to be disorder if you don't. Maybe there's just always going to be disorder as long as you've got people in the country who are coming in and committing crime. Absolutely. I mean, it was Baroness Casey, wasn't it, in the 2025 audit, who said that professionals were avoiding uncomfortable truths, right, and reinforcing a pattern of non-disclosure to avoid racism. But the fact is that people aren't stupid. The public have lost faith, they've lost trust, and you know, most people get their information now from social media. Right. And if you just look at social media, it is absolutely awash with anger. There's a real problem out there, and policing, unfortunately, has lost or is losing the trust of the public very, very quickly. Yeah.
And I mean, the bare bones of all of it, really, is the fact that we've got loads of people living in conditions which people rather resent, you know, living in these hotels or being given accommodation for free, being brought into this country. And I realise that's not a police matter, that's a political matter, but that's the cause of the problem at the end of the day. We're not saying that every single migrant is a potential criminal, but the fact is that that's, you know, it's easy to see that there's a lot of crime being committed by an awful lot of those people.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and don't lose sight in, you know, the fact of this is there is a 12-year-old girl who has been kidnapped, strangled and raped. And, you know, these two men who are suspected of doing this are at court in August. You know, the big question is you don't just arrive and suddenly go out, rape, kidnap and strangle a little girl. Who are these people? And that's the problem. We do not know who these people are who are coming into our country. You know, they get rid of their passport, they hide their ID. We don't know whether they're terrorists. And as we can now see, you know, from this incident and an incident near to where I live in Epping, we are having an inordinate amount of migrants committing serious crime.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is being covered up.
Yes. And so, you know, that is a recipe for public disorder, if ever I saw one. Absolutely, yeah, and the public aren't stupid, as I said. You know, they know what's going on, and you know it's building up everywhere you go now. It's a sole source of conversation, and policing has got to work out which side of the line it sits. Yeah. Because unfortunately, we've still seen the police outside of hotels in places like Epping, in Canary Wharf, up in Clerkenwell as well, down in Waterlooville. You know, they look as if they're kind of, you know, more about protecting the livelihoods of the migrants than the people who are demonstrating. Well, I don't think it's those at the coalface. You know, those at the coalface are doing the job. You know, they're stuck in the middle. They're damned if they do, damned if they don't. It's unfortunately, it's those above them who are making political decisions, many of whom have never actually been police officers, never actually policed the streets, and they follow the government rhetoric and narrative. You know, those poor officers on the front line, really, you know, they're in an unenviable position. Yeah, they are. And they've been put there by the government, unfortunately. But listen, David, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. David McKelvey, former Metropolitan Detective Chief Inspector and CEO of My Local Bobby. The problem here, it seems to me, is pretty clear. It's the fact that the government have brought all these people in and have put them up in hotels in the middle of communities and allowed them to wander about freely where they can do whatever the hell they like. Some of them are obviously very bad people. It's that simple, and something needs to be done about it. I'm Mike Graham. This is Morning Glory, back after the news.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs. People smuggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, "I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source." Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their
their boots. Now Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work. You just can't say it.
It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world, as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to very nearly 3 minutes past 8. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock this morning. We're paying tribute to James Whale, our colleague and friend here at Talk, who passed away yesterday. We were able to bring you lots and lots of different messages from all manner of people. Died at the age of 74 after a long battle with cancer. He'd been fighting basically terminal cancer for around about 5 years, and he very bravely managed to last all the way until yesterday, where he passed away in a hospice down in Kent. I was fortunate enough to go and see him just about 10 days ago when he was still in absolutely sparkling form, incredibly brave. He couldn't really speak very loudly. His voice had more or less gone. He was whispering, but he was hilarious. For about 2 hours I sat with Jeremy Kyle and our boss Denny Morris, and we regaled each other with stories of all sorts of daring do, slagged off an awful lot of people that we found very amusing, and just an incredible guy. So if you've got anything to say, if you have any particular remembrances of him and you want us to pass those on to everybody else, you know what to do. You can text us at 08722 and you can call us and leave a voice note on 0344 499 1000. You can also find us, of course, on Twitter and X at talkTV. Front pages this morning, very much a mixed bag. The Sun goes with TV's Jay Blades on 2 rape charges. That's the repair shop star, has been charged with 2 counts of rape. Police last night confirmed the allegations against the 55-year-old dad of 3 from Shropshire. Not much more we can say about that. The Prime Minister on the front page of the Times saying the police are at odds with him over migrant suspects. This is following on from the Warwickshire police situation. We were just talking about it before the news, where Warwickshire police deliberately withheld information about 2 migrant suspects who were being investigated for an alleged rape of a 12-year-old girl. They've since been charged, and Warwickshire police said that they have no absolute necessity to reveal sharing ethnicity or immigration status. And Keir Starmer has apparently now said that he's going to put pressure on police chiefs to release more information about offenders because there's growing unrest over the government's handling of the migration crisis. This morning, we're told that the one-in, one-out scheme is going to begin. But, of course, everybody knows it's not one in and it's not one out. It's far more complicated than that, and nobody really knows how it's going to work. They say they're going to detain suspects as of today coming across the channel illegally. We don't know where they're going to detain them. We don't know how they're going to detain them or for how long. And they then say, once they've detained them, they're going to send them back to France. But we don't know by which method they're going to send them back. We don't know which boats they're going to use, if they're going to use boats at all. Are they going to fly them back? Are they going to, put them on a train and put them under the Channel Tunnel? Nobody really knows exactly how this is going to work. We're trying to find out from Angela Eagle, who doesn't seem to know, and we're going to try and find out from Yvette Cooper as well. But we're very unlikely to get an answer from her. Ryan Saby's here, Deputy Political Editor of The Sun, though. Perhaps he'll know. But we'll ask him in a moment. This is Talk. Lots of other stories going on as well. Iran is asking the Taliban for a spy kill list. That's on the front page of the Mail. And, of course, we've also got the Express on the front page. The British state is failing to protect women. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. Let's get another voice note from Liam.
Morning, Mike. Liam from Kent. I just wanted to voice note in and send my best condolences to James Wales' family and you guys at Talk. James will be very, very much missed. I loved watching him in the evenings, especially on a Friday after a long week of work. Bit of James Whale in the evening always went down a treat. So yeah, rest in peace, James. Thanks, Mike.
Liam, thanks very much indeed. We're playing a variety of clips of James today, and we're also going to be talking to Chris Tarrant coming up a little bit later on in this hour. But let's have a look at James Whale ripping up Sadiq Khan's book.
And this book, I don't like to do this because I don't think you should, but this book has made me feel... This book has made me feel so bad... and it's badly put together, it's cheap and nasty.
Look how easy you can rip it.
Look, you shouldn't be able to rip a book up like that, should you?
You cover. What about the cover?
Do you want to do the cover?
Yeah,
Do you feel better for that? This book should not... You're making too much noise. This book should not... No book should be this easy to actually rip up. I mean... It's
horrible.
Think of a page.
It's not even tight. Doesn't even take. Feed me a page, man.
Feed you a page.
Make it a good one.
Yeah.
No, I can't eat it. Fold it up for me. Come on.
Let me finish doing the book. Look, this book, right,
in bite-sized portions,
is the whole book, okay, ripped up. It's a cheap,
it's a much better book now. It's actually a nice folder.
Yeah. Did you want the folder?
Yeah, it's a nice wallet.
Nice. Okay.
It's a wallet.
I do apologise for ripping up a book. That's a really genius thing to do. But when it's written by the man.
A mobile phone holder.
Who is trying, thank you guys, don't rush me or we'll miss guests.
It's not a very good mobile phone.
Who is trying to stop people driving in London is appalling.
Yep, that was no less than he deserved, I'd have to say, old Sadiq Khan. There we are. Let's talk to Ryan Saby, Deputy Police Editor at The Sun. Ryan, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Good to see you, and nice to talk to you. I've been asking a question this morning because I haven't yet found anyone that knows the answer, and I'm not sure whether you will know it. The government say this one in, one out scenario begins today. They say that they're going to detain people, but they don't say where they're going to detain them. And then they say they're going to send them back to France, but they don't say how they're going to send them back. It's a bit short on detail, it seems to me.
Yeah, I think we're going to get the full details of this published this morning, and I think we'll see Yvette Cooper doing some interviews also today, and I think that will be able to put a bit more flesh on the bones of exactly how this thing is going to work in practice, because it's all very well one thing having the theory and having the slogan one in, one out, but actually how does it actually work? I think the interesting thing will be how quickly they can turn around and whether the government can actually ramp up the numbers, because at the moment they're talking about 50 per week being part of this pilot scheme. Now, 50 a week when you've got potentially couple of thousand coming over in a week doesn't sound like much of a deterrent to me, but we're going to have to wait and see if this works.
Yeah, exactly right. I've just been handed actually an Yvette Cooper clip, so let's have a look at it and see whether she can share it.
The first time people who arrive on these dangerous and illegal small boats can be returned to France. They will be first detained. They'll be detained immediately on arrival and then detained and held until they are returned to France. And in exchange, we will take people who have applied lawfully, who have been through security checks and a proper legal process. I think that is the right principle. We're not setting out what the numbers will be at this point for two reasons. First of all, because those numbers will vary and will increase, and we haven't fixed an overall number for the scheme. We obviously want it to increase as much as possible. But also, secondly, because we're not going to provide operational information about which numbers, which days that the criminal gangs will then simply use in order to continue to ply their vile trade in human beings.
So they're not going to put any number on it, but it's called one in, one out. That sounds like a number to me. But also she says they're going to detain them, but she doesn't say where, and we're going to send them back, doesn't say how. Yeah, no, I think in terms of getting back the mechanics of it, you'd hope people in Whitehall that would be relatively the easy bit. But I think the interesting thing, I come back to the numbers. There's been modelling. I've been reading up on this this morning, and some modelling that the Home Office have done.
shows that if you don't send 85% of the people coming here back to France or back to their home nation, the deterrent won't work. So if you're only sending 50 a week out of, for argument's sake, 500 who come here, it's not going to act as that deterrent. And you wonder whether migrants who are paying thousands and thousands of pounds to these smuggling gangs are just going to chance their arm yet again to come over, and we're in all sorts of problems yet again, and the numbers continue to rise. So the government say this is not a silver bullet. This is not the be-all and end-all of smashing the gangs. It's a large part of it, or it's a part of it, but the deterrent has to be a deterrent. It can't just be the quote from Sir Keir Starmer this morning saying those who come here face being detained and sent back to France. Well, it's got to be more than facing. If it's got to be a deterrent, they've got to actually go back to France.
Right. And the huge problem, of course, is not so much who's coming now, as it's the ones who are already here. You know, we've seen all weekend, you know, demonstrations outside all manner of different hotels up and down the country, including even down in Waterlooville in Hampshire, where there was a demonstration last week about not a hotel, but about some property that was about to be occupied by migrants, because people are just really sick and tired of seeing people moving into their communities who seemingly don't have any restriction on what they can do, seemingly have a reasonable amount of money to walk around to towns with, and who are sort of fed and watered and looked after.
Yeah, I think that's one of the problems that the government has got, not only today but also on the horizon. They've got the issue of these migrant hotels up and down the country where you know, people who are concerned about it in their community often protesting about. But don't forget that it's this government who said they want to close those migrant hotels. Now, the thing is with that, if they haven't reduced the number significantly, where are they actually going to go? Now, are they going to go into sort of private residences? Is it going to be into sort of university-style halls of residence? Yeah. Where will they go? Because the problem will just go elsewhere and could even get worse. Now, the government have to be careful over the summer. You know, tensions are running high, and you know, people are protesting outside these. And what the government doesn't want it to do is to spread and spread and spread. It's also it seems like it's happening more and more. Yeah. So I think they just need to watch this very, very carefully.
Yes. And the other problem, of course, is what's on the front page of the Times today, following on from the Warwickshire Police failure to disclose information which they thought might cause an uproar in the general public. And of course that was about the ethnicity and the immigration status of two men who have been arrested and charged over the alleged rape of a 12-year-old girl. And so, you know, we've got Keir Starmer now saying he's going to put pressure on police chiefs to be more transparent. Now, we know from the Baroness Casey report that basically not giving out information after the Southport atrocity was what created the problem there and the problem of unrest. And whereas, you know, they seem to be not learning the lesson from that, and the police are not giving out information, they say, because they don't want to cause unrest.
Yeah, no, again, this is a big, big problem for politicians, the police, and the knock-on effect for the public. Draw your attention to, obviously, a couple of things from last year. You had Southport, where originally they didn't obviously give the ethnicity, but also, if you remember, when there was that incident in Liverpool during the football parade, where the police then did give the ethnicity of someone involved. Now, I think this is the problem. I think police are going to. I think what the guidance, if the College of Policing look at this, they're going to have to take everything, I think, on a case-by-case basis. Now, I think Sir Keir Starmer or Downing Street yesterday saying the police should be as transparent as possible. I think that is all very well and good, but I think for maybe your burglaries up and down the country or whatever the sort of lower level crimes, I don't think you're going to be getting this. But I think if there is a hint or it could trigger issues within the community and raise tensions, and the issue may already be of high profile, there may be the instance and the circumstance where the police actually do reveal the ethnicity of the person involved. Right. And that may be ever more prevalent, in cases like that in Nuneaton.
Well, this is the thing. We all know what's going to be the next problem. The next problem will be the next time somebody who apparently is an illegal migrant is charged with a crime. Yeah, and particularly if it's a crime involving a child or a crime involving some kind of sexual assault. You know, that is the thing. That is the thing that is riling people right now. You know, there was another case. I think it was up in Stockport of a legal migrant who was staying in a migrant hotel, who was seen apparently trying to kidnap a 10-year-old girl in front of her dad. You know, and again, every time something like this happens, it might only be a single incident. It might only be, you know, something that happens in a you know, a relatively sparse way. But with every single one of these crimes that's committed, there's more problems.
Yeah, and that's why I think there's going to have to be some heads banged together here between the police chiefs, the national the sort of College of Policing, and maybe the Home Office, where they come up with a you know, they may not be able to have a sort of a blanket approach to this, but certainly judge it on a case-by-case basis, where if there is the need to give that ethnicity, that actually happens. And I think we you know, if we get more and more cases like this, because when the police do charge someone or the person appears in court, that information is pretty much always in the public domain, and an address is given out. So it doesn't take too much to work out that you know, this could be involved someone who was in a migrant hotel per se. So I think that the police probably just, and the prosecutors maybe just need to act that little bit quicker to calm tensions and actually get some information out there.
Yeah, exactly right. Because also, if they try and withhold it, it becomes pretty obvious that they're withholding it for that exact reason. You know, so they might as well just not do that. But you know, because even the leader in the Sun today says attempts to cover up migrant involvement in crime are an affront to justice. The immigration status and nationality of all offenders should be published for each crime. They might as well just get on with it and stop trying to treat us like we're idiots.
Yeah, it does feel like we're heading in that direction. Obviously, for years and years and years, that has just not happened. But I think, as you've seen in, in instances where tensions are running high, like particularly we've seen over the summer, and there is a clear public interest, and as long as the media, newspapers, radio, you know, this doesn't lead to contempt of court. This, you know, there may not be a problem with it, and I don't see why that would lead to contempt of court.
No, of course not. Well, because it doesn't in any other case, so why would it in their case? But there we are. Ryan, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Ryan Sabey, Deputy Political Editor at The Sun. I'm delighted to tell you that the Prime Minister has issued his first tweet of the day. I won't give you any full marks for guessing what it's about, because I don't think he would even ever get anywhere near guessing what it was about. Let me read it to you. This was put out 47 minutes ago or so. Congratulations to everyone receiving their exam results in Scotland today. My mission is to make sure everyone's future is determined by hard work and ambition, not where you started. I wish you every success. Huh? Somebody's messing around, surely, right? That's going to be a spoof tweet, isn't it? Goodness me. It's 19 minutes past 8.
With great regret, we bring you the heartbreaking news that our very own James Whale has passed after his terminal cancer battle. He was 74 years old. James Whale began his career way back in 1975 when he pioneered the late-night phone-in. In his time, he hosted numerous shows for ITV, the BBC, finally ending up with us here at Talk Radio in 2016.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham, 8:22. Some lovely messages coming in about James Whale. Good morning, Mike. Such sad news about lovely James yesterday, but a wonderful tribute to him on Talk all yesterday. I will miss him from Talk so much, and we all will, Rachel, absolutely. He was a brilliant colleague. He was a fantastic guy to have around, and he was also brilliant. He's so great. His talents were absolutely remarkable. Morning, Mike, says Els Bells in Shropshire. Do you think it would be a good idea to ask the Donald if we can borrow his border czar, Tom Homan? He seems pretty capable. Yeah, he really did absolutely set the cat amongst the pigeons as soon as he started work, didn't he, Tom Homan? He just started getting loads and loads of illegal migrants loaded up onto planes and flew them out of the country. And if anybody didn't like it, Donald Trump just stepped in and said, well, if you don't like it, we'll put a load of tariffs on you. And suddenly everybody liked it. Let's get Dennis on migrants.
Bonjour, Mike. Question. If they're going to return the migrants to France, don't they need a passport? I live in France, and every time I come back to France, I have to show my passport. Anyway, perhaps they're just going to give them a UK passport.
That's a very good.
Take care. Bye.
Very good point, Dennis. Thank you very much, and very good that you said bonjour as well, because we're about to talk about the European Union with Ross Clark, who's written a piece in The Sun today on page 10, because the EU reset is well underway. The headline says, was it Starmer's plan all along to make us so subservient to the EU we'd be better off back in? Well, I mean, it's a very good question. Certainly, as the Sun leader says this morning, Donald Trump sort of showed the world how to force a deal with the European Union, but Keir Starmer doesn't seem to have a clue how to do the same thing. Ross, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
I mean, we've always known, despite what he said, that Keir Starmer loves the European Union and wanted a second referendum and would have us back in it if he could actually figure out a way of doing so. So perhaps your theory that he's trying to just make it so awful, our relationship with them, that people will say, well, I might as well just rejoin. I wonder if that's his real end game.
Yes, well, I mean, Keir Starmer, of course, throughout the Brexit negotiations was campaigning for a second referendum, which he hoped the British public would reverse the result of the first one.
Yes.
Which was never certain anyway. But anyway, that was his game. He gave up on that when we left. But did he give up on Britain? His aim for Britain one day to rejoin the EU and just go about it in a different strategy by bringing us closer and closer to Europe until such times as fully rejoining the bloc sort of becomes a kind of tidying up exercise. Now we're getting more and more details now of the reset between the UK and the EU, and it doesn't make very pleasant reading. I mean, what is being proposed is just affects sort of food and animal plant products at the moment, but it's to create a common sanitary and phytosanitary area, which essentially means that Britain would just follow EU regulations on food, plants, agriculture and so on, and so that would obviate the need for border checks, which sounds a good idea because it's a load of footling bureaucracy when you import or export stuff. So but what it does, of course, is it then takes away Britain's ability to make its own rules on these matters.
Well, because effectively there is a border, because the border is the regulation, isn't it? Because in effect, unless you're regulated by the EU, unless your product matches what it is that they want it to match, then you can't export it.
Yes, well, not only that, you wouldn't be able to sell it in this country either. I mean, what we're sort of essentially agreeing to is to adopt EU regulations on these things for all our, whether you're exporting, importing, or whether you're producing stuff for food for consumption in Britain. We'd all have to obey rules which are essentially made in Brussels.
Right.
And Britain might have some there might be some consultation go on, but it's essentially the EU which will be making the rules. We just have to accept them, and if there's a dispute, it would get considered by what's called an independent tribunal, but the ultimate arbiter of what is acceptable and what not acceptable is the European Court of Justice,
right.
An EU institution. So
we haven't really got much in sort of in favour of this deal for us, from our point of view. We haven't really got anything in return, have we?
Well, I mean, in our favour is that it would do away with the border checks and make it smoother to import, export food and so on. But, it comes at a very heavy price of essentially undermining one of the, if not the most important aspect of Brexit, which was to take back control.
Well,
we're going to hand back a lot of control.
Right, as you point out in the piece, EU legislators, heavily lobbied by French farmers and the like, will pass laws which are designed to discriminate against UK-made produce in order to keep it out of EU markets. So, their end game is pretty obvious. They want to try and actually limit the amount of stuff that we can sell in Europe because they don't want it as competition.
No, exactly, and this was going on during our membership of the EU. And if you remember the battle over chocolate, the EU wanted to ban chocolate which was made with a certain level of vegetable fats, a certain level of milk, and which just happened to, the regulations they proposed just happened to permit French and Belgian-made chocolate, but exclude the sort of chocolate bars that are made in Britain. And that went on for years and years, ever since we joined the EU in 1973, until it was finally resolved in 2000. And that was resolved in Britain's favour. But then we were members of the EU, and of course, under the proposed arrangements, we won't have the seat at the table. So the EU will sort of make sure it wins those kinds of battles.
Yeah,
so,
it's just more failure and hopelessness from this government, I'm afraid. Ross, we've got to leave it there, I'm afraid. Thank you very much indeed. Ross Clark with a piece in the Sun today about the EU reset. Was it Starmer's plan all along to make us so subservient to the European Union we'd be better off back in? I wouldn't be surprised if that was the plan. But it's, once again, completely bungled by our Prime Minister. Let's see what they're talking about on the Sun Letters page. It might not surprise you to know that it's all about migration. £100 million won't fix migration, says Peter in Suffolk. The government is now setting aside £100 million to be spent on intercepting illegal migrants and beating the gangs behind the small boats. Where has that money come from? They plead poverty, saying they can't fix homelessness. The NHS will keep HS2 to its original plan, and taxes had to rise to cover a £20 million black hole left by the Tories. 20 billion, more like. They forgot it was Blair and Corbyn who opened the gates to illegal immigration, and that when in opposition. Labour did everything in their power to stop Tory plans to curb it. Now they are blaming the Tories for the mess they find themselves in. And this one from Bob in London. Yvette Cooper, you are not one step ahead of the people smuggler gangs. You're on another planet. Yeah, well, you might well say that. Coming up, we're going to talk to Chris Tarrant about James Whale.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Rest in peace, your dear fellow Cheers all the way. And good morning, Mike. Just to say, R.I.P. James Whale, says Nikki. I love that guy. Straight talking to the point. I've been listening to him from the 1980s. Thank you. So many of you have got so many great things to say. Have we got a little clip? Here's James Whale clashing on winter fuel.
All they would have to do to make up the reduction in the winter fuel allowance, or its elimination rather, is to cut their leisure expenditure by 10%. And I've said that about 4 times on this show.
You know, you'll get thrown out by your ear in a moment because I'm getting really bloody cross. Look, I'm 75 nearly. I'm old. I worked most of my life. In fact, I worked it all. Some of the time I've had to put up with him. And I don't need prats like you coming in here at the age you are and saying, oh, well, you know, because when you get to the end of your life, you would like to enjoy it. You don't want to be sitting there worrying where the next...
Yeah, people on 11 grand, they don't get it. I mean, he might be all right, but there's some pensioners on 11 grand who've been told they can't have it.
Yes, if you entered the lion's den, you were likely to be dealt with rather swiftly and not necessarily very nicely by James Whale. Let's talk to Chris Tarrant, broadcaster and TV legend, of course, as well. Chris, a very good morning to you.
Don't use the legend word, Michael. It just means very, very old.
Well, you can be a young legend, can't you?
No, everybody's a legend these days. Everybody's
It's true.
30.
I know. It's true. I'll take it back then. I'll just call you broadcaster.
I think in fairness, James actually was a legend, wasn't he?
He was.
Was he not the first ever pop shop DJ? I think he started all that, didn't he? And then he became... I suppose he was the first shock jock. I never found him... I loved him. I never found him particularly shocking. I just think he spoke his mind.
He did.
He didn't want to be... I suppose an important thing that stands him, you know, apart from an awful lot of radio presenters, including, I have to say, me and Wogan, and, you know, most of you probably, is that he didn't really care if the audience liked him or not.
No.
And I think that was quite rare.
Yes.
You know, normally it's like, love me, love my show. James couldn't care less. I think he was a great radio man. He didn't really like TV. He did TV. He didn't really... He was just a radio, you know, radio buff, wasn't he?
He was brilliant at radio. But funny enough, we were speaking yesterday to one of his old producers from the TV show, who said they were all really young when they did it, and he was actually a really talented TV presenter without kind of really knowing that he was a talented TV presenter, because he just took what he did on the radio and did it on in front of a camera. You know, he didn't really read an auto cue. He didn't really like doing that, and it was all a bit anarchic, you know.
Yeah, certainly anarchic, but it was pretty much an extension of what he did. Well, it was the radio show, wasn't it, done on TV? I don't know. I was chatting to him once. He said, I don't really settle on television. Whereas when he got in his chair on the radio, he just James Whale. You know, it was funny, wasn't he? I think he loved it. He thrived on it.
Yes.
They called him a shock jock. I mean, he wasn't shocking, was he? I mean, you didn't always agree with what you heard. And I do think sometimes he'd do the same thing as Porky Parry used to do on Talk Sport, where he actually took a point of view that he didn't even agree with, purely to make it sound like, you know, really good radio.
Yes.
And that was a great skill in itself.
And he was very convincing at it, and his grumpiness was also, you know, I'm not going to say manufactured, but he was more grumpy on the air than he was off it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he was a good guy. I mean, he was good fun, actually. And I do think that it was almost, he slipped into it, but it's almost the radio persona was not really James, was it? He was far more brutal to people, you know, on air than he ever was off. He was a bit of a teddy bear, actually.
I mean, he was really, yeah. And you met him at London Weekend Television, right?
We were on one of those, do you remember those telethons we used to do?
Oh, yeah.
15 minutes of entertainment squeezed into 27 hours. And I seem to remember, they were dreadful things, weren't they? Just shocking.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I did quite
Call
a few
this
of those.
number.
James was on one. We were in the small hours of the morning, and we were both bored stiff with the whole thing. And James told, I mean, to be honest, and I won't repeat, but it was a vaguely risque joke. And he was actually dragged off the air by the producer and told, told in no uncertain terms, you will never work again on television and radio, which of course is complete nonsense because James continues to have a very successful career on radio. May have been sacked a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, and television as well. And that particular producer, I've never heard of him again.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? But I mean, you can't be a legend of broadcasting unless you've been sacked at least 3 times, can you?
Well, Tony Blackburn once, he actually walked out on a station and he said to me, "It's very strange that one, mate, because I've always been sacked." a sort of badge of honour. And you think, yeah, James was. But I mean, one of the great things about James, he did it all on his own terms, didn't he? And he did. And he didn't. I suppose that's the other thing about cutting people off. I mean, he didn't suffer fools gladly at all.
No, but I was saying this yesterday when I was talking about him and how he operated. He had this great knack of knowing exactly when to cut somebody off, you know, because he let them go just far enough to make themselves sound idiotic, and then he would do it. Sometimes,
far enough to. I mean, he was very much about the commodity of the show as opposed to himself. So far enough to give the audience listening a real reason to pick the phone up themselves and say, "Let me talk about that idiot and all that."
Right,
yeah.
Right, exactly right. And also, you know, he was very ably supported in certainly the show that he did here by Ash, who was a brilliant sidekick because he would just, you know, I mean, we were watching him throwing Steve Headley, the old RMT union chief, out of the studio, and Ash just sort of sits there with his very Brummie accent and just goes, I quite liked him. I thought he was all right, you know, and James just thrown him out the studio.
I do think there were times when James basically would want to say, "Ash, just shut up," because he actually can't hear what his bloke's saying.
Right.
Yeah, but it kind of worked. It was a chemistry, wasn't it?
It was.
I think the sad thing about James is he went through all this in 2000.
Yeah.
And, you know, given this 50-50 chance of surviving the operation and all that. So he went through all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Came up the other side, set up this great charity for kidney cancer research, and then the bloody thing came back again sort of more or less 20 years later. And I think, it's just not fair.
It really isn't. And I mean, we were remembering yesterday that it was 5 years ago when he first kind of came back and said, I've been diagnosed with you know, terminal cancer 5 years ago, and he managed to last 5 years, which is incredible.
I know. He did seem to go. I don't know, nobody goes happily, but he did seem to go sort of at peace with himself and the world. I think the only thing that upset him towards the end was the idea of leaving his wife alone. Yeah. You know, the love of his life, without question. I think
I saw him about 10, you know, we went to see him about 10 days ago, just the day he moved into the hospice, and he was in great form. His voice was gone, but he could whisper, and we sat there for 2 hours listening to him slagging everybody off and, you know, talking and making fun of people on TV. It was just very funny. And he said, I've accepted it. I know it's coming. It could be a few days, it could be a few weeks, but I know it's coming, and I'm very much at peace with it. And he said he was very worried about Nadine, his wife, because she'd been so amazing.
Yeah, I think it was one of the great loves. You know, one of the great loves, wasn't it? It really was, actually.
Yeah. No.
I remember seeing the two of them together, and I mean, they loved each other to pieces.
Yeah. And they used to do that podcast together. There's podcast together as well, which was really quite informative for those, you know.
Talking about
having cancer.
I found it quite. I mean, yes, it was a remarkable podcast, but I actually found it really painful because just sitting there, two of them talking about, you know, his impending death and cancer, whatever. It wasn't a great listen, was it?
No, but it was sort of fascinating in its way, though.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Well, listen, Chris, really good to talk to you, and thank you very much indeed.
It's very sad. I mean, I'm glad he was at peace at the end, but we have lost. And I think, in fairness, I mean, what you said at the beginning, he was a legend.
He really was. Brilliant. Yeah. Good to see you, Chris. Thanks very much indeed. Chris Tarrant, a broadcaster, not a TV legend, doesn't want to be called that, but that's fair enough. I still think he might be. Here's yet another James Whale clip, another clash.
Patrick McGuinness. I have to confess that's the first time I've seen that. So you are a pillock. But you're here in the studio.
How many refugees will you take in your house, James?
None.
Right, so where are they going to go, all these refugees?
So don't start on me. You said you have a solution. So what is the solution?
Do you support Nigel Farage?
I don't have any political persuasion.
You don't support Reform UK?
But they want to stop the refugees.
No, they don't.
And you're a political party, aren't you?
Yes.
How many MPs have you got?
I go knocking on doors.
How many MPs do you have?
I am a local... Look, you're an anti-white knuckle-dragger. I go knocking on doors...
Right, out, now.
Why is that?
Out!
No.
Come and get him and do it now, quickly. I want you out.
Listen, I'm not going to be talked to like that. You're talking to me like I'm an idiot.
You are an idiot. Go.
You're an anti-white knuckle dragger.
You are an idiot. You get this guy on my show, you're going to get in trouble. Get him out.
You know why...
Get him out.
They've got off on the wrong foot.
Go. Ash, will you shut up?
I got the Jews in the Second World War.
The reason they're flooding across the channel is because we accept refugee for citizenship.
Now look what you've done.
Reform UK are a joke.
I'm not a very well person.
And another one bites the dust, I'm afraid. Here's a clip of James' last interview with Nigel Farage.
Thanks, Nigel.
James, you're a complete star.
I hope I've got more than a few weeks, but...
Well, so do I.
That's really made me...
So do
good.
I. And you never know, miracles do happen.
They do. They do.
They do happen. Well, your career's been a miracle.
Yeah. Well, it has, considering I had no A-levels, O-levels, CSEs, or even a letter after my name for broadcasting.
You said to me the other day, you've never really had a job.
I haven't.
And that was the last interview that was conducted with James by Nigel Farage just a few weeks ago. We'll talk some more about James, obviously. Let's get a voice note from Paula.
Morning, Mike. Paula in Liverpool. Every day I get up and think this can't get worse. Surely this immigration thing can't get worse. And then we find out the chief advisor to the government's parents are making a fortune out of the crisis. We're bringing in 300 sick children, which, you know, that's a good humanitarian thing to do, but also bringing all of their extended families in with them probably, and they'll all get asylum. Yeah, the stupid Brits will do it. Why don't any of the countries around there want to help?
I know, it is crazy, isn't it? I mean, I was told when I looked into this that Egypt has taken quite a few sick kids from Palestine, as has the UAE. But the problem is that, you know, there's no other country in Europe that I can see doing it. And as you say, Paula, we're going to end up with, you know, thousands and thousands of more people claiming asylum. And we don't have room. We just don't have room. It's as simple as that. 8:44.
It's a massive punch down on you know, whatever they call the working class there, or you know, the poorer people in this country. You know, you and I have grown up in a position, you know, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, where we've seen enormous increases in our ability to travel.
It's amazing. We went on holiday to Cornwall, and that was considered far-flung when I was a kid.
Oh, well, we went to Camber Sands and Pontins. That was a wonderful week out down on the Kent coast.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 8:47. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. Terry in Birmingham says, Mike, this one in, one out rubbish, how do they decide who goes and who comes? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Who decides who we get in exchange? The French? What a load of old cobblers. Yeah, quite right too. Let's get a voice note from Claire.
Morning, Mike, on immigration, and it's Claire from Worcestershire here. Number one, where is Yvette Cooper? Absolute silence from her. Afraid and running scared, I'm sure, of her lefties and not gaining the popular vote. The biggest vote, less she and her party forget, is the British people and their vote. Their wishes, their demands for our government to at least grow a spine, direct with some fierce conviction and will. That would be a nice change. And as for this one in, one out, this whole policy is utterly embarrassing. Anyway, what policy? So I remember a journalist asking for the details on this. No idea, Kia, quote, I cannot reveal the details as this would undermine the policy.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be their line, isn't it? We can't tell you what we're going to do because the migrant smugglers will find out. The vile people smugglers will find out. We've actually managed to track Yvette Cooper down. She was talking to the BBC this morning. Have a look at this.
The first time, people who arrive on these dangerous and illegal small boats can be returned to France. They will be first detained. They'll be detained immediately on arrival and then detained and held until they are returned to France. And in exchange, we will take people who have applied lawfully, who have been through security checks and a proper legal process. I think that is the right principle. We're not setting out what the numbers will be at this point for two reasons. First of all, because those numbers will vary and will increase, and we haven't fixed an overall number for the scheme. We obviously want it to increase as much as possible. But also, secondly, because we're not going to provide operational information about which numbers, which days that the criminal gangs will then simply use in order to continue to ply their vile trade in human beings.
Yes, ply the vile trade in human beings. That's what people smugglers do, I think you'll find. She doesn't actually say what the numbers are going to be. It's called one in, one out, which has got at least two numbers in it. And then, of course, she won't say what the total will be because they don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. They still don't say how they're going to detain these people, and they don't say where they're going to detain them, and they don't say how long they're going to detain them for, and they then don't say how they're going to send them back. So it's all a bit of nonsense, isn't it? I mean, I can't explain it. Let's talk to Vanessa Frake, Reform UK's Justice Advisor, former prison governor. Vanessa, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
I mean, I'd like to ask you if you've got any clue about where they're going to detain them, but I mean, do you happen to know off the top of your head whether there is any kind of detention centre around the south coast of England that they could use? I mean, I know there's a few disused barracks and things like that, but they're not fit for purpose for detention, are they?
Oh, well, I have absolutely no idea, Mike, and it's interesting
like
that
Yvette
the
Cooper,
Labour
then.
Have absolutely no idea. Let's hope they're not going to put them in our prisons, hey?
Well, they're certainly going to find a little bit difficult finding any space in the prisons, aren't they? I mean, we're still sort of limit up on the prison population at the moment, aren't we?
Pretty much so, yes.
Yeah, so you've just become Reform UK's Justice Advisor. And I know you've had a couple of run-ins already just in the last couple of days, so I'm not going to give you a hard time about that because I saw your explanation for the trans thing, which seems to me to be actually reasonably sensible. And so I'm not going to even bother sort of getting you to go over that again. But let's talk about Nigel Farage, because he has got some pretty good ideas about what he wants to do about the police. He's saying he wants no more of these cover-ups that are going on. He wants to make sure that the public is given the information that they need to make judgments as to who they should want to vote for. Is it the case in the prison system as well that there are things that we're kind of not allowed to know?
In what respect, Mike? Sorry.
I'm talking. Well, in reference, I mean, Nigel's talking about the cover-up by the Warwickshire Police, who basically took a decision not to release the identities and the ethnicities and the immigration status of two men who were arrested and charged for the alleged rape of a 12-year-old girl. Keir Starmer this morning in the Times is saying basically, you know. what we need to be is more transparent. I was just wondering if the same problem persists in the prison system, where the people that run it don't want us to know what it's really like going on in there.
Well, I always think that the prison system has been fairly transparent. It's the powers that be that have not been.
Yeah.
I am all for transparency, because without transparency, as we all know, you know, the rumour mill starts and problems occur.
Yeah.
So I'm always for transparency and saying it how it is.
Right, because we had some figures that came out just recently, didn't we, last week, of numbers of foreign inmates and the types of sort of sentences that they're getting, and how many of them are, and broken down by country. But it's sort of the first time I think we've seen that, really.
Yes, absolutely. But, you know, every time a prisoner walks through a gate, their ethnicity, is recorded. So
Yeah.
there is no reason why, you know, we shouldn't be able to see those figures.
Right.
You know, it is worrying that there are so many foreign national prisoners languishing in our jails when we are so short for prison beds.
Yes, particularly when the government keeps talking about deporting people who have no right to be in this country. Surely nothing really kind of defines that more than somebody who's a foreign national who has come to this country and committed a crime. Surely they are the very first people that should be on the deportation list, because they don't deserve to be here.
Absolutely. But don't forget, many of those 10,500, 11,000 foreign national prisoners, many of them are still awaiting trial or on remand.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily ready to be deported, and that is the issue. But I'm all for get them convicted, unless they've committed serious violent crime like murder, rape, etc. Then they should be on the first boat back.
Yeah, absolutely
to
right.
whence they came.
And I understand there's some conversations going on as well between yourselves in the party about this idea of supermax prisons. What would that entail?
Well, this is something that I said about yesterday, but I didn't say prisons. What I said was regimes, and there is a difference. My thoughts are that serious violent terrorist prisoners like Ruda Cabana, Hashim Abedi, you know, those prisoners with ideals that are never going to be rehabilitated should be in a supermax regime. They should be 23-hour bang-up, escorted everywhere in handcuffs with 3 officers and an officer with a patrol dog. You know, their regime needs to be much more restricted. I do not see that how we have appeased these prisoners over the years is warranted when they have been convicted of blowing up, you know, innocent people into smithereens, such as the Manchester Arena bomber.
Yeah.
I would like to see maybe a wing or 2 around our high security estate converted into a supermax wing with specialist trained officers who have very little contact with them.
Right. And how quickly could that sort of setup be put together, if you like? I mean, could you use current spaces, or would you need to build onto them? You know, how quickly could that be done?
I'm pretty sure that in the high security state, 1 wing could be turned into a supermax wing. Thankfully, we don't have that many prisoners of the likes of the 2 I've just mentioned. So, you know, and I think what you'd have to do is probably convert a couple around the high security estate, in case that there were issues where you had to move several out. I don't think that they should be in the general population. I don't think that they should have access to cooking their own food.
Right.
You know, there are many Cat C prisoners who have not committed violent crime who would love to be able to cook their own meals.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think most people would agree with it. Vanessa, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Vanessa Frake, Reform UK's new Justice Advisor and former prison governor, of course. Let's get a voice note from Mark.
Morning, Mike. It's Mark in Lancashire. This ridiculous one-in, one-out policy with the French, honestly, the more you think about it, the more stupid it is. Just imagine if your next-door neighbour throws an old mattress over the fence into your garden. You go around to see your neighbour, you tell him you don't want the mattress, there's an argument ensues and the police come round. Your neighbour says that he'll accept the old mattress back, but he needs to give you another one in return. So the police go around, They take the old mattress back that he threw over your garden, and the police bring round another old mattress and give it to you and say, yeah, you've got to accept this one. That's basically what's happening. Absolutely nonsense.
Well, it's a very, very good analogy, that, Mark, actually, except for the fact that what they'll bring you is not one old mattress, 17 old mattresses will come instead, because actually there'll be more people coming and staying than there will be being sent back. And that's the problem. It doesn't stack up. It doesn't make any sense at all. This from Mick, who says, "Morning, Mike. Regarding the legend James Well, it didn't matter how bad your day had been. After 10 minutes of James, you were feeling a lot better. I'd like to pass my condolences on to his family and to you and his colleagues at Talk. Great show." One from somebody who doesn't give a name here. Maybe say it this way: the illegal boat arrivals are not the biggest problem. The legal routes are the ways that need stopping. The boats are smoke and mirrors. The government are happy we're saying no to the boats. While doing this, no one is pointing out the ones that come legally and never return. That's the biggest migration route that needs closing. All the legal ones. Well, we've learned over the course of the last year or two, have we not, that basically so many people now come here under various visa schemes. We found out last week, and in fact we did it on Plank of the Week. There's now a visa route into this country from Nigeria if you come here as some kind of a poet. Or an oral scholar, or somebody who actually thinks that they can speak for a nation, and they can literally come in anytime they want. Zoe in Lancashire says, "Mike, how about the French? Keep the 50 so we don't have to waste money detaining them here. They won't do that because Starmer knows these migrants will appeal and stay anyway. So we are no better off." What a cretin of a government we've got. Well, this is the problem. I mean, you've basically got people coming into the country, being put into hotels, having all sorts of problems as a result of that. We then have more people coming, and even then, they say they're going to send one out and they're going to bring one back in. It doesn't make any sense. They don't know how they're going to send them back. They don't know where they're going to detain them. They don't know how long they're going to detain them for. It just doesn't make any sense. Coming up in the next hour, Christopher Biggins is going to join us. Dan Hodges is here as well. And also, we'll remember James Well through Malcolm Packer, the CEO of Kidney Cancer UK. This is Talk. I'll be back after the news.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 9. I'm Mike Graham, here until 10, of course. And we are celebrating the life of James Whale, who passed away yesterday at the age of 74. He'd been battling cancer for 5 years. We're going to talk to Christopher Biggins coming up in this hour. But, of course, we'd love to hear from you as well, and all of your remembrances and all of your lovely messages, which are going to mean an awful lot to his family and to us here as well, because he really was, as Chris Tarrant said, an absolute legend of a broadcaster and a fantastic human being as well. 0344 499 1000 is the number if you want to leave us a voice note. You can call us on that one as well, 87222 if you want to leave us a text. And we're, of course, at talkTV on X and or Twitter, should you care to say that. Dan Hodges coming up in a moment as well, commentator, of course, from the Mail on Sunday. The big story going on today is effectively, once again, migrant-related. You've got basically one in, one out, supposedly beginning. But Yvette Cooper's been talking this morning to various outlets, not including ours, of course. 48,678. You see the Starmer migrant tracker there. That's from when July the 4th started, which is when Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. And 25,436 have arrived since the beginning of 2025 already. This one in, one out scheme will mean that something like 800 returns may be made. But we don't really yet know how that's going to work, because we're told that we've got Angela Eagle talking about tactics. We've got Yvette Cooper saying, oh yeah, we're going to detain people as they arrive on our shores. Doesn't say where we're going to detain them. Doesn't say how long we're going to detain them for. Doesn't say whether there's going to be any kind of legal process about the detention or whether there's any court business going on either. And then she says they're going to be returned to France if they've got no right to stay. And, of course, they don't tell us how they're going to do that either. Are they going to be put on small boats? Are they going to be put on big boats? Are they going to be put on trains? Are they going to be put on planes? How are they going to get back to France exactly? And what are the French going to do when they get there? There's so many questions. Also, front page of the Times, the fallout still continues. Nigel Farage is calling it a cover-up. Keir Starmer says he wants more police chiefs to release more information about offenders because of the growing unrest that's going on up and down the country. This is specifically after the Warwickshire police basically were criticised for failing to disclose the immigration status of two men who have now been charged with the alleged rape of a 12-year-old girl. Warwickshire police have defended their decision not to release information about those people accused, they say, because they follow national guidance, and the guidance does not include sharing ethnicity or immigration status. Well, this is precisely what Baroness Casey said was the problem after the Southport killings last summer. 0344 499 1000 is the number. This, of course, is Morning Glory. Let's get a voice note from Dan.
Hi Mike, it's Dan from Kent. I just picked up on a clip you played with the Home Secretary talking about the one in, one out debacle, and she said that they're happy to accept those that use the right channels and had the proper security checks. Oh, so the ones that arrive illegally don't have the proper security checks. They're allowed to roam freely amongst our communities to commit crime. Are we really safe?
Well, it's a very good question. The problem is the system doesn't work. The system has no checks and balances, and the people who are already here, many of whom are waiting for asylum claims to be processed, I think over 75,000 of them now, are going to be here for a very long time, because if they are then told that their claim is unsuccessful, they get to appeal it. And right now, if you appeal the case, that will take you for another year of living in either sponsored housing in an HMO or in a hotel. So, you know, I don't know what Labour are planning to do about this, but I think one in, one out isn't the answer. Let's speak to Dan Hodges from the Mail on Sunday and find out what he makes of it. Dan, very good morning to you.
Morning.
It's not been a great week again, has it, for old Keir Starmer? He's now been accused on the front pages this morning by the Israeli Foreign Minister of handing out Hamas a prize for terror. As the situation over in the Middle East doesn't get any easier. He's been accused also now of trying to get back into the European Union by stealth because of the reset. And back home, he's got the migrant problem, which isn't going away.
Yeah, as ever, we start off with a plethora of bad news for Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
I mean, to take the top one we mentioned there. I mean, obviously, the Israelis have said that Keir Starmer is rewarding Hamas for their campaign of terror. But it's not just the Israelis. I mean, obviously, Hamas themselves have said that the decision to recognise Palestine is a product of their attacks. And obviously, I think for me, most significantly, obviously the families of the hostages and those that were killed on October the 7th, they themselves have said that Keir Starmer's policy risks leaving their loved ones rotting in Hamas dungeons.
Yeah.
So, and again, I mean, I say this every time I come on, I literally don't understand why Keir Starmer and the government aren't able to say, look, we will not countenance a policy of recognition of the state of Palestine until the hostages have been released. I mean, it's just, it's so, on a humanitarian level, on a diplomatic level, and on a political level, it's self-evidently what the policy needs to be. And I cannot understand, I spent the last week and the weekend phoning people trying to get some sort of understanding about why Keir Starmer did this. Now, partly it was because, again, he was ambushed by his cabinet and forced and pushed and bullied by members of his cabinet into changing his stance. But as I wrote at the weekend, this is just becoming a pattern for Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
He just, as I said, he's quite openly betrayed the families of the hostages, and as I said, if he's prepared to betray them, he's prepared to betray anyone, in my view.
Well, quite. I mean, you call him a charlatan this week, and I don't think that's off the mark at all, because unfortunately, it seems to me, I was asking this question a couple of days ago, it's almost as though nobody in Downing Street has a conversation about what might happen when we do this. Like if we decide that we're going to recognise Palestine as a state, what could be the results of us saying that as a British government? It's almost as though nobody asked the question.
Exactly. I did specifically call him a charlatan, and I didn't use the phrase lightly, and I want to be clear, because obviously people criticise me for it. As ever, when I make these comments, I'm talking about Keir Starmer, the politician, not Keir Starmer, the person. It's not in a sense a personal assault. It's a political criticism of him, but it's something that we've seen now throughout Keir Starmer's premiership. I mean, if you remember at the very beginning, when he launched his campaign to be Labour leader, he positioned himself as somebody who was a friend of the left of the Labour Party. We had, this video that he produced of him, campaigning for, people who were campaigning against military, representing people who campaign against military bases and representing the unions. And he had his 10 left-wing pledges, and he was wandering around telling everybody he was Jeremy Corbyn's friend. And then he immediately, as soon as he got what he wanted and he got power, he immediately moved away and ditched the left. And we see that time and time again. This is now Keir Starmer's MO. This is one that I genuinely I do think is disgraceful. That the man literally, on the anniversary of the Hamas attacks, he brought the families into Downing Street. He sat with them in Downing Street. He looked them in the eye and he said, you are going to be my priority, and we obviously are going to want to try and sort out the broader situation in Israel, Palestine, the Middle East. But obviously, the release of your family members is going to essentially going to be my priority. And as we now know, that was a lie, and he has completely reversed that, and basically is now saying, well, yes, I'll listen to the hostage families, but I want to go ahead with this policy. This has got broader implications for Keir Starmer moving forward, because the simple fact is, like I'm talking about the hostage families, we've seen it with pensioners, we've seen it with the WASPy women. Every commitment Keir Starmer gave to anyone in advance of him becoming Prime Minister is no longer valid, right? As soon as it became politically advantageous for him to ditch his pledges, he's quite prepared to ditch them. And he's going to keep doing that moving forward. It's quite clear that frankly, any commitment that Keir Starmer gives to any group or any sector of British society, we're going to protect hard-working British families. It's just not valid.
No.
And
but it's just like his Twitter account is a kind of extension of his personality, it seems to me. I appreciate you're trying to separate, the man from the politician, but he makes these claims constantly, which is simply not true. People see through it when you see the comments underneath, and I know that it's not the real world and all of that, but it kind of gives you a glimpse into his world, and everything that he claims is happening, isn't it? I mean, like today, the first tweet he's put out is about congratulating people in Scotland on their exam results, right? And what he doesn't seem to know is that actually quite a lot of people in Scotland won't be getting their exam results today because of the storm yesterday. For some reason, they're all going to get delayed. So once again, it's like, who's doing his thinking for him?
Well, we had the situation last week where, he sent out a tweet saying Britain is currently in the midst of a housing crisis,
right,
and we are going to solve it. But if you remember, we discussed it literally, I think 3 or 4 days before. He turned up in front of the liaison committee and said, "Oh no, there's lots of spare housing, and we're going to be putting asylum seekers in it."
Right.
We see it with the economy, with Rachel Reeves literally standing up at the Mansion House and saying one of the things that this government has done is we finally got on top of the mountain of debt. And literally 2 days later, the figures show debt under the government is soaring. And it's like you said, that is the strategy. It's literally to lie about these things. But again, what I don't understand is why, because ministers know the facts are there, they're readily available, and people are just simply going to turn around and say, look, these are the facts.
Yeah.
And the point is, but also people are living their lives. They are experiencing all this. So when the government's wandering around saying, "Oh, actually, we've got on top of the economy now." The economy, the classic one, the economy's improving. That's why we can change our policy in relation to winter fuel. Everything's better now. We filled in the black hole because of the tough decisions we've made. Everything's great now, and they know that's not true.
Right.
And I don't understand why ministers can't see that.
Right. And so why do they keep on with the same kind of wrong-headedness, it would seem? I mean, it's almost a pig-headedness, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, look, you obviously led, and you're obviously going to be talking a lot about, obviously, the immigration issue and the small boats issue. Now, in fairness to the government, and I think we're slightly losing sight of that, and it's important to remember, the small boats crisis was not a crisis that began on their watch. This was a problem they've inherited. And at the beginning,
but it has got a lot worse though since they got in.
But this is the key thing. Now, at the beginning, they introduced a series of new measures, smashing the gangs, trying to disrupt the mechanics, if you like, of the people smuggling operation. That was fine. That was a perfectly legitimate approach. Initially, it had some effect. But it's quite clear the gangs have adapted now, and as a result of that approach isn't working. But this, as you say, is the problem. What we're now in the situation is ministers such as Yvette Cooper are simply pointing to, we've introduced this measure, we've introduced that measure, we're going to have one in, one out, which is an absolutely ridiculous
it's not even true
policy, because what people are going to do, they hear the government phrase one in, one out, they're going to see the net small boat arrival figures, and in a month's time or 2 months' time, it won't have been one in, one out, it'll be one out, a couple of hundred in.
Right. There'll probably be none out. I mean, because they haven't said. Well, they haven't even said, right? How she said this morning, we're going to detain people, right? But she doesn't say where she's going to detain them, how she's going to detain them, how long for, and under what circumstances, and under what charge, if you like. And then they're going to be returned, but she doesn't say how they're going to be returned.
No, absolutely. But this is the problem. What is now happening with ministers across the spectrum? They are exclusively focusing on process. So they are saying, look, we've introduced this policy, and we've introduced that policy, and we've introduced one in, one out, and we've introduced we've had negotiations with the Germans and the French, and we're disrupting the transport of the boats, etc., etc. All of which is good, but the problem is it's not working. Or if it is working, it's not working to the extent that it can actually solve the problem in the round. And all the British people are seeing now is ministers like Yvette Cooper and Keir Starmer standing up and saying, we are doing X, Y and Z in relation to the small boat. And then the next day, they're seeing the latest set of figures, and they're seeing, over the last month, another 2 or 3, 4 or 10,000 people, illegally entered the UK.
Right.
And that is the problem. So what the ministers are now trying to do, because they're starting to appreciate that, is now they're literally lying. And they're trying to lie and just literally say, we're dealing with the problem, when the facts show that they're obviously not.
Right. And so when the facts then show them up to be lying, what do they do then? They just start moving on to another subject and pretend they never said it.
Well, that's the point. And and I've written about this. This is what is now happening within Downing Street. So there is now a debate going on within Downing Street, in which some people within Downing Street are saying, look, immigration, small boats, it's the #1 issue. It's the thing we have to grip. If we don't grip, we're dead politically. Other people in Downing Street are wanting Keir Starmer to throw a deflection, are saying, stop small. We can't deal with the small boats. We can't get on top of the problem. So stop talking about it. Talk about, I don't know, free breakfast clubs in schools, or try and talk about some elements of a new house building programme.
Yeah.
And basically try and make the British people forget or shift their priorities onto other issues. But obviously that's not.
But that's not going to work either.
It's such an emotive issue.
Yeah.
This has been such a toxic issue, and this has been top of, people's concerns now, going back for years. It's precisely why we've seen, the surge of reform here. It's a global phenomenon. It's not just people in Britain who are expressing concern about this. We can see it across Europe. We can obviously see it in the United States with Trump. And that is the reality. I know it's hard. I know ministers inherited an appalling situation from the previous government, but the reality is they are going to have to grip this crisis, because if they don't, then we as a country and they as a government are in serious
and
trouble.
Also, there are more countries around the world now that are dealing with it better than Britain. America has dealt with it. Trump said that when he came. He said, he might not believe him, but he said, no immigrants illegally came into the United States of America last month. Because he's clamped right down on it. Similarly, in Greece, they've got a detention centre which they're now putting together in Crete, and there for 3 months they've abandoned any kind of asylum system. They're saying anybody who comes here from North Africa is going to go straight into a detention centre.
But this again, I wrote about this last week. It's the kind of, if you like, it's the alligator Alcatraz solution, right?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of what Trump has been saying has been rubbish, right? Has been rubbish in terms of the things he was going to do. But the one thing that you cannot criticise Trump, or you can criticise him, but the fact is, the nature of the rhetoric and the nature of the posture he has on immigration has meant a lot of people who were potentially thinking of coming to the States, especially across the southern border, are now saying, I am not going to bother, because this guy is literally going to feed me to alligators in the swamp. Now, you may not like Trump's rhetoric, but it is having an effect. What Keir Starmer has been trying to do is a quite managerial, mechanistic, we're going to just disrupt the people smugglers approach.
Yeah.
I understand that, and I understand why, but it's quite clearly not working. And if he wants to solve the problem, he's going to have to find a way to put up in lights and communicate to the world and people potentially coming to the UK illegally. I'm very sorry, it's not going to work. You come here, you're going back. You come here, you are not going to like what you experience when you get to the UK. And it's a terrible thing to say, but that is the only solution to the crisis, and Keir Starmer is going to have to grasp that.
And he obviously doesn't feel like he can say that, because all he can say now is smashing the gangs, breaking up the vile people smugglers. He's always aiming it at them, so it makes it sound as though he's not having a go at the people who are coming here, many of whom are coming here with what you might at least describe as bad intent. Because I think that's the other problem that he's faced, is that perhaps in years gone by, as the problem got worse under the Tories, it wasn't quite as focused as it is now on what appears to be gangs of young men coming, you know, quite braggadocious types, you know, making videos as they come, you know, taking pictures of people outside of migrant hotels, waving at them, blowing kisses at them. You know, this is a slightly different kind of illegal migrant story now, I think, because you know, there may well have even been a time when more families were coming. But right now, what it looks like is we're being, you know, invaded by a sort of marauding force of rather arrogant and perhaps not very lawful individuals.
Well, I mean, we talked about this last week. I mean, I went down to the Bell Hotel, and the local residents made precisely, in Essex, and the local residents made precisely that point. There had been a period where the hotel had been filled with families.
Yeah.
They were moved, and then it was filled with exclusively young men who, you know, the point is, they don't even need to engage in overtly illegal activity.
Yeah.
Just having young men hanging around, drinking, you know, openly drinking, hanging around, not doing anything, because obviously there's nothing for them to do. Local residents find that very intimidating. That's before you introduce, obviously, some of the very extreme incidents that have been reported recently. But I thought your caller made a very, very good point. It's a classic example. Yvette Cooper is standing up talking about the one-in, one-out scheme and saying this is an excellent scheme because it allowed us to do proper security checks on the people that are coming in. Fine. But what is the implication of that for the people who are already
here and
the people who aren't coming into those routes? And by implication, Yvette Cooper is saying to people, I'm very sorry, but if you live in one of those communities where we are currently housing people who have entered by these, quote, by these illegal routes, then I'm sorry, you're right. They have not had a proper security check, and that they therefore do represent a threat to you and your community.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is that is the problem with the government's sort of, as it were, managerial approach to this crisis.
Yeah, it is, and it's not going to go away until they change their approach, as you say. Dan, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Dan Hodges, commentator there at the Mail on Sunday. Nick in Leon C says this: everything that Starmer says is a smokescreen. The migrant deal will be more like 1 out and 17 in, so for every illegal migrant we successfully deport, France will be free to send 17 that they don't want across the Channel to the UK. And Aubrey from Upminster, rather good this one, Aubrey. I think that Dan Hodges calling Keir Starmer a charlatan is very unfair. The charlatans are absolutely the worst band I've ever heard, but they're still way too good for Starmer. Very good. Let's get a voice note from Ben.
Hi Mike, Ben in Prague here. Just something that's been crossing my mind, that obviously free speech is no more. They're clamping down on that. They've got that special task force who are going to monitor people's online comments about illegal immigration and other such things. Are you worried there at the station for yourself, for the station itself, that that maybe that they're going to clamp down on you guys? I mean, if they're doing it to people who are posting stuff on social media, does that not then enable them to clamp down on you guys? Because you kind of have a bigger audience, if you like.
Well, they can try, but I don't think they'd relish the fight there, because we would absolutely fight tooth and nail for our free speech. I think you'll find. We are talk, after all. It's 25 minutes past 9.
the nicest guy around. He never stopped to spare anybody time. Newcomers like yourself, he was always there to help. Me and him, we used to have a few rows on air sometimes. So he was a great friend. He was a good guy to young people in the industry, because I think he loved the industry as well. So we have lost a legend.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 9:28. I'm Mike Gray with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock, another half an hour before Julie Hart, the brewer, gets here. Morning, Mike, says Mandy from Guildford. I remember James well back in the day. Was he on LBC in the 80s when that radio station had some sense? Along with Robbie Vincent back then. I used to listen late at night. And Tony from Bournemouth says, sad news about James Well. He kept me going through many a lonely night when I used to work on the car parks down Bournemouth Square. He always had such a variety of interesting guests, a unique broadcaster. He will never be forgotten. He certainly won't. And there's some great footage if you get a chance to look at it on our social media. A couple of really, really good interviews. One with Ash, his co-host, of course, on the show, which will play throughout the course of the week, I think, because we're going to talk to Malcolm Packer coming up, who's the CEO of Kidney Cancer UK, that James did so much work for and raised so much money for. Right now, though, shall we get Darren on One In, One Out? Let's have a look at this.
Morning, Mike. Darren from Suffolk. I would normally say, what a beautiful morning. Missed the blue skies out. The ducks are quacking here in Suffolk. But I just wanted to say, imagine we get 50,000 come in and we send 50,000 back. We basically get 50,000 back again. So it ends up at 50,000. So one in, one out, 50,000 come in, we send 50,000 back and we get 50,000 back. Who came up with this nonsense? It's ridiculous. Gaslighting.
It's true. It's a bit like that hokey cokey, isn't it? I mean, you end up with still more people here than there were yesterday, depending on, what measure you use. You're never going to have fewer. You're always going to have more. That's the problem. Dr. Lawrence Girlis is here, GP at Same Day Doctor. Lawrence, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
When you go, one of the reasons why getting to see a doctor is getting harder and harder is more and more people in the queue. But it turns out now, I was speaking to a doctor earlier on in the show, doctors are now seeing people in more ways than just in face-to-face, I suppose you might say. You might say, and you may have said this before, that some consultations can be done without actually physical presence of a doctor. You can do it on Zoom, you can do it on the phone, but a third is quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, this started during the pandemic when the GPs could work from home, and indeed some even working from abroad. And then the government said, oh, that's a bad thing, you've got to do face-to-face. Look, I've seen some very bad examples. During the pandemic, one woman had 3 consultations for a bladder problem, got 3 lots of antibiotics, and when she came to see me, one minute of examination, I could tell she had ovarian cancer, because she hadn't been examined. And there are numerous examples I've seen of that sort of thing, I've seen personally. So remote consultations have limited experience. I like to be able to examine patients and take blood and do testing and all that, and you can't do that on a remote video or phone consultation. For routine stuff, for maybe for prescriptions or referral letters, yes, but I do like to be able to examine a patient, and there's an unintended consequence in the private sector now. You can get a sick note on a remote consultation if you pay for it. You can get Ozempic and Managerial without seeing a doctor, just online. So there's a burgeoning private sector now of clinics that don't have any physical presence at all. Yeah. It's all online. You can get antibiotics online. every single day at work, I get someone contacting me saying, "I've got a sore throat. Can I have antibiotics?" I say, "No.
Right.
You know, I'm not Deliveroo. This is the Uber." This is the Uberization of medicine. You've got to come in and be examined, and we'll decide if you need antibiotics. It happens every single day because during the pandemic, people talked about remote consultations. People weren't aware that could happen, and now it triggers everyone saying, "Oh, I didn't think of that. I don't even have to leave my home or my office or wherever. I can just get what I want." By remote consultation. I'm not desperately keen on them, to be
No, I think you're right. I think because people's expectations have changed as well, haven't they?
Yeah.
You know, in the same way that they don't go into the office as much as they used to. They sort of used to ordering stuff and just getting it delivered to them. But, you know, I speak to a doctor regularly on this show who's an NHS doctor, and he's admitted to me that he will sign people off on the sick if they send him an email. And he doesn't even have to talk to them. And so, I mean, that's obviously bad. And presumably, as an old school doctor, if you look at somebody and you meet them and they sit in front of you, you can tell things about them that you can't tell when you're just looking at a screen with them on it.
I look at people as they're walking into the room. You can tell the way they're walking. You can get a better vision of their face, their colour, how drained they are. Check them for sepsis. Absolutely, their whole body language. And although you can see some of that on video consultations, most actually of the remote consultations are done by phone or email, so they're not actually even video. So you know, you do see a lot when people come in to be examined. I had a woman who thought she was just constipated, and I said, no, come in to be examined. Again, you put your hand on her tummy. She had peritonitis from a burst appendix, but her only symptom was constipation. Now, you know, in another world, she would have just got laxatives and died the next day. So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
See it all the time, Mike.
It is. It's a terrible thing. What do you make of old Neil Kinnock, who's got a bit of flack this week for coming up with this plan to put VAT on private healthcare? You know, they've run out of things to tax, this government, so I guess it's eventually going to reach every single pore of the world, you know. Doesn't seem like a great idea to me.
Well, it will drive more people back into the NHS, which I'm not sure is a good thing. No, I'm concerned about it, obviously, and I think again it's a bit of a class war, like the VAT on private schools. We'll just have to wait and see. There's lots of false leads leading up to the budget, and we'll just have to deal with whatever is. I don't think it's a great idea, and it will affect companies. The companies are already paying higher national insurance. If they've got corporate schemes for their private health, it's just going to add to their costs. So again, we're going to get more redundancies, I'm afraid, because it's going to be too expensive to employ and insure people medically.
Yes, which doesn't sound like a great plan from the government, but there we are. They haven't had a great plan for a while. Dr. Lawrence Gurlis, thank you very much indeed. GP at Same Day Doctor. Rest in peace, James Whale, says Francesca from Rutland. I worked with him at Radio Air in the 1980s, sending love to the Dean and family, and to the talkTV team, of course, as well. That's very kind of you. Chris in Newbury says this, Mike, I started the Starm Zempic one out diet yesterday. It's working already. I sent one donut back to France. They sent me one donut and 16 croissants back. As long as I don't weigh myself, the Starm Zempic spokesman says I've lost £500 million by Christmas. Very good, Chris in Newbury. I see what you did there. John in Germany says, I read today in a German newspaper how Europe is planning to send thousands of illegal immigrants to its offshore facility. I just thought I'd give you a heads up on what the UK can expect. Yeah, well, I mean, that's it. They are offshoring their illegal migrants, aren't they? Just sending them here. Absolutely ridiculous. No one talks about the extra pressure on our water supplies, our sewers and already crowded roads, says Max in Bristol. Well, funnily enough, I do. I've been saying this for ages, that the amount of immigration that's been going on in this country has, by a factor of about 25, completely ballooned everything. So that, you know, healthcare is more difficult. The roads are more crowded. The trains are more crowded. Planes are more crowded. Everything you do is more crowded. Waiting lists are longer. You know, doctor's appointments are harder to get. Dental appointments are like gold dust. You can't park anywhere. You know, there's not enough room for everybody. It's been obvious what's been going on for ages. 9:36.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 9:39. Here with you, of course, until 10 o'clock. We're going to speak to Malcolm Packer very shortly, the CEO of Kidney Cancer UK, because, of course, you know, James Whale, who passed away yesterday, died from kidney cancer, which he sort of had twice in a way. But we'll find out from Malcolm just the good work that James did, a lot of fundraising for them as well. Here's another little clip, though, to play you, and this is James Whale with myself and Mark Dolan from 2021. And all that's happened, right, is I've come in and been called the most unpleasant man on the airwaves by Mr. James Whale.
Well, you are.
Who I used to have a lot of respect for, quite frankly.
No, don't try undermining me by that sort of thing. Just remember that you take the mickey out of me regularly on social media.
It's true.
You are quite disparaging to some of my views in life, and quite frankly, I feel quite hurt.
Yes, but I know you're a very delicate flower, James, and in this time of your life, you've started to wear sort of, you know, what I can only describe as the old country squire garb, looking like somebody who lives in the Shires, you know, like Dorset or something like that.
I don't live in the Shires, and this just happens to be...
You do live in the Shires.
I don't. I live in the Garden of England.
Garden of England,
I live
Kent.
round the corner from you. I'm sitting here next. I'm not sitting here with that filth all over the desk.
No, you're being a deep clean.
Would you do that?
I would not. I hope it's going to be cleaned up before the morning as well. Because
Get your producer in here to do it now. He's got his own laptop in here looking at rude films.
What's he looking at?
Well, do you know what it is?
Mark Dolan there was slightly lost for words, I think, in the midst of all that. Let's say hello to Malcolm Packer, CEO of Kidney Cancer UK. Malcolm, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. Very well. It was a bit of a difficult day for everybody yesterday, but we've been able to kind of, you know, extract some of the brilliance of James Whale over the last sort of 24 hours or so, and just watch some of the things that he did, which was so funny and brilliant. And I guess you would have seen another side to James as well in his work that he did with you guys raising funds for Kidney Cancer UK.
Of course. And first of all, obviously, my condolences to Nadine and all his family. But I think even James would say this is a time for mourning, but it's also a time for celebrating James's life.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, he's done some fantastic things. James was diagnosed with kidney cancer in 2000 and subsequently had kidney removed, and he was proud to say that it was almost the size of a football, the tumour that was taken out of the poor fella. Right. And from that, he couldn't get any support. He found it difficult to find support at that time, and that's why he decided to start his own charity, which was originally called James Whale Fund for Kidney Cancer. Right. In 2006, and we changed our name with his blessing to Kidney Cancer UK in 2015. But James has always been incredibly supportive. He's a wonderful character, and we will miss him dearly. The support that he gave us in helping us raise funds through his celebrity contacts and friends were invaluable to the charity. We get no government funding, so everything that we get comes from the public. Yeah. And James was aware of that and worked really hard to help us do our work and support other kidney cancer patients across the UK.
Yeah, he was very generous with his time in that regard, wasn't he? I mean, even I saw him about 10 days ago down in the hospice where he was being looked after in Kent, and you know, one of the things he said was, you know, when I'm gone, I want you guys to raise some money for this hospice because, you know, they do such great work, and all the people here are volunteers, and they don't really get money from central government. They don't get it from the NHS, and, you know, he was always thinking about that kind of thing.
Yeah, and he was very painfully aware of that with Kidney Cancer UK as well, in that the funding that we get comes from public donations. If we ever asked him to do anything, a video for us, he would do it without fail, send it through, and be very enthusiastic about sharing it as well. He was a lovely guy. He's a lovely guy.
Amazing. I'm going to play you his goodbye message. You might have heard this already. This was with Nadine, obviously his wife, which he made just a few days before he died. Have a listen.
I have no pain from this voice. It just won't work.
And it's such a shame for you because obviously your voice is your thing.
Yeah, but the sun is shining, and I'm kind of going through my life, if you like, and I'm very upset and worried about Nadine.
Oh, don't worry about me. We've been having some lovely time reminiscing about all the lovely things we've done, haven't we?
We've had a good time together, haven't we?
The best.
I love you.
I love you too. Shall we sign off on the podcast?
Thank you for being a listener. I hope it helps in some way. And who knows what's next. So I can only say au revoir.
Yes, that's very good. Au revoir, not goodbye.
Bye-bye, guys.
And that was just beautiful. I mean, how important was that, Malcolm, just for him to be able to speak to people with cancer, which he did an awful lot of just privately as well, and raise people's kind of concerns about it. He would talk to people about how it feels. I mean, he was very open about it, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was an incredibly emotional podcast, obviously from his Tales of the Wales podcast that he did every week, talking about his journey, for the want of a better word, and the bravery that he showed, and also let's not forget Nadine as well, and the strength that she showed supporting him and being able to be present and coherent and together at that point as well, which must have been incredibly difficult for her. It's a tough listen, but something that James was really passionate about. And you know, James's life was broadcasting. He loved doing his shows and being out there and being controversial and kicking the can, and that's what we loved him for. It was, it's a very sad day.
Yeah, absolutely right. And so, I mean, in terms of Kidney Cancer UK, what will you remember James for? And will there be a kind of, I don't know if I should even ask this question, but would there be some kind of James Whale award or something that you could give out every year? I mean, there's something that we can do to remember him?
We need to put some thought to that. Of course, his legacy is Kidney Cancer UK. This charity would not be here without James, his hard work and dedication. And he has helped through starting this charity. I would say hundreds of thousands of patients, family members, and friends of those who have kidney cancer. So his legacy is the charity, and we intend to make sure that lives on, is strong, and we're here to support patients in his name. Right. I'd love to be able to do something like an award, but we need to put some thought into exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to, and talk to Nadine about it as well, so it's respectful.
Sure. Absolutely right. Brilliant. Malcolm, thanks so much for talking to us, CEO of Kidney Cancer UK, which was, of course, the charity that James did so much for, and would be nice, wouldn't it, if there was some way to remember him through that fundraising piece of machinery. This from Mary in Kent. I find it extremely baffling that there's no money apparently in this country to spend on the things that we need, but there's always money for a foreign country and illegal immigrants coming in on the boats. I don't blame the immigrants, I blame the system, but it's now making somebody like me extremely resentful. I've been waiting over a year to see a rheumatologist. I've had my third email asking me, do I still need to see the rheumatologist? I'm being helped out of bed in the morning and I'm taking a lot of painkillers, and I also have a TENS machine constantly on my back. I also care for 2 disabled family members. Should I say at the moment we're muddling along. There is no Great in Britain anymore. And isn't that terrible? Terrible thing to say, but true. Obviously, a lot of people will feel the same way as Mary in Kent, because what we have now is a government, as Dan Hodges says, that just tells lies. A government that promises things and never delivers, but always tells us that they're delivering things. Keep saying it. We're delivering our promises. Promises made, promises kept. It's all that sort of garbage that they come out with. It means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Dave in Bristol says, I think Dan Hodges needs to realise that Starmer will never change his attitude to or get a grip on illegal or legal migration. He sees this as a solution to his voter base in the next election, and is still convinced that if you load the country with migrants, the economy will grow. Well, even the Office for Budget Responsibility has ditched that particular myth. They've said today that immigration is actually bad for the country, bad for the economy, bad for the indigenous population who should be working, who are not working because of immigration. And at the end of the day, the whole thing, the whole project, started by Tony Blair all those years ago, has been a complete and utter dismal failure. Hasn't worked. It's ruined Britain. Time to start fixing it, isn't it? It's 9:49.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 9:52. I'm Mike Graham with you for another 7 or so minutes. Julie Hartley-Brewer will be in, of course, to take you through for the next 3 hours. We've been celebrating the life of James Whale. Passed away yesterday, aged 74, after a 5-year battle with terminal cancer. Of course, it was the second time that he actually had cancer. He'd beaten it once, and what an incredible man he was. I'm going to play you now some of the best bits of the James Whale show. We put them together yesterday when we heard the news, and it goes on for a few minutes, but I think it's the least we can do to just show you just the variety and the most amazing kind of comedic value that you get out of this man, James Whale, a proper legend of broadcasting, somebody who it was described yesterday by our boss Denny Morris as godfather of talk radio. He really will be that forever. Have a look at this.
How you doing?
Good. Now, what do you want?
I don't want anything.
Thank you very much indeed.
Every night from 10 till 2, Whaley's on the line for you. Give me a ring. I'll be there, the mega mouth of radio air.
£300.
Let me just stop you for one moment. This was a section that was called Call Biggins. Did you want to ask a question to Christopher Biggins?
No,
right.
Where's your buzzer?
No, I've got the frigging buzzer in here.
Everybody's good at cooking something.
And I'm good at cooking crumble. Would you like some? Well, would you then?
Yes. How do you get such attractive women around you, Stanley? How does this work? I mean, what is there? What is there?
I feel very, very privileged.
And don't it feel good? Yeah!
Happy birthday to you.
I don't give a stuff whether she likes the show or not.
Most people who watch this show don't like it. That's a fact.
That's what happens.
That's what you get when you commentate it. You show your small nipples.
As far as I know, that kind of animal doesn't have any testicles.
He has.
No.
They're just under the desk.
There they are. I choose not to show them.
Do you remember, Sweet, when we went out to that nightclub in London called Stringfellows? Yeah, I thought you would. My new vagina is so tight it squeaks when I walk.
So what I'm going to do is
that you
really
can't.
squeaks.
No.
Okay, let's try this now. Is it squeaking?
It is squeaking. I get a sense with him that he is he's a sensitive guy as well.
I remember listening to you, the midnight show. You were fantastic then.
Yeah, but if you heard it now, you'd probably think it was rubbish.
Did you get rid of him now?
When you hear shows that you hear in the past, you go, why didn't I think that was good?
Go on, take him up, get him up out the seat, move him out of the door. Lizzie Cundy has now kicked out Vladimir Putin. Call us 0344 499 1000. Did you come here legally?
We actually managed to sneak in. Yeah.
Call the police.
I don't think you realise what you're saying. You're being insulting and rude.
That's the whole point of the restaurant.
Yeah, but it's not very pleasant.
No, well, you don't go there. It's like watching this. Don't go breaking my heart.
I couldn't live that try.
Oh, honey, I can't hear
Wait for the beat, man.
You rang up for the text number.
To go live on air just to ask us for the...
Why the hell would you ring up for the text number?
Why didn't you just ask...
I thought I'd be able to speak to somebody to get it.
No, we don't have that many people working here on this show. We're bloody busy.
Hold on, you wanted to go live on air to ask the question about that?
You're on air now. What is the question you wanted to ask?
She wants to know the text number. She just said it.
Oh, no,
87222, text the word talk and your message.
But what for? You're on... Just shush, you're both... Get their mics on.
87222.
Right. So what
is
it...
the word talk at the beginning.
Oh, you must be really wealthy, James, to be able to get a good-looking lady like that when you're such a miserable, horrible sod. Well, she was very nice of them, really, but...
Yeah, we get that all the time.
Yeah, well...
Sadly, he's not, but I like him anyway.
James, one thing on my bucket list, I must be cut off by James Well. Can you please...
Do you know...
Oh, I love you.
When my time has come and I'm sadly gone, that people will talk about me and they will go back and show that shit.
Yeah.
And that's what I will be remembered for. That is exactly what I will be remembered.
Some of the anarchy that went on was quite remarkable. It's no wonder he got fired a few times. Good old James Well. What a character and what a wonderful man. Julie Hartley-Brewer's here. Good morning.
Very good morning. Do you know, I was listening to the radio when I was listening to your sort of tribute yesterday, and I went on a little bit later. But and I thought exactly the same you did. The way you just talked about James, it was just he was so larger than life.
Yeah, he was.
Really was. And it's lovely to see, images of Nadine. I mean, I'm so glad he found love again after losing his first wife.
She was incredible as well.
Oh my God! I mean, find a woman who loves you like Nadine does, guys and girls. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
No, it's. I mean, it's the office, as you imagine, is fairly subdued today. But the show must go on.
The show must go on.
That's how he always was.
And that's what he would do as well, because this is a guy who was recording a podcast, literally even as he was dying.
Do you know what? It was when you could hear his voice, and how faint his voice was, and that's when you knew. Well, this is it. And I think we all knew that the time was near. But I think that's when because he is his voice. He was his voice. His voice was him.
Definitely.
And once that's gone.
And he used to, up until reasonably recently, just a few months ago, he was still coming in occasionally to do Plank of the Week, and you could tell that
haranguing
he was
people,
but struggling.
Mocking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
But just a brilliant man.
A life well lived.
A life very well lived.
Cut short at this day and age, 71's not such a good innings.
Yeah.
But a life well lived.
Yeah.
And that's what we should all aspire to.
I think so. And he was exactly, I was able to see him about 10 days ago.
Yeah,
and I mean, we didn't know if we'd have 5 minutes with him.
Yeah.
But we had 2 hours. And he was brilliant. He slagged everybody off. You know, he was watching talk.
To your face.
Criticising, criticising, you know, what he was seeing on the screen.
Oh, he was messaging me a couple months ago, going, "Oh, we'll listen to the show, watch the show." Always gives me ideas. And I'm like, you're just criticising me.
I know. I know.
But, I mean, he and I, we came to almost blows on some of the biggest issues like lockdown and jabs and things like that.